We're live. It's Wednesday night, and I don't know where Dallas is. He's probably running late. He has to come from the other side of the city. He's got like a 30-mile trip to get here. So we'll give him a few minutes. Mike Smith just checked in. What's happening, brother man? How are you? Uh, so what's new and exciting? What's going on out there in the world of hey, Dickie Farley, George Bonnie, Rudyard J and A? What's happening? Writer J. Okay. George, I hooked on phonics. You know what I mean? I should have spent more time in school. Dakota, what's happening, my brother? Jason Fitch, Jeremy, Jason's Garage, Matt S, Mr. Foz, Frank Caputo. Oh, what a long day. Mr. Will, what's happening? Hands on Latham. You've been bleeding some breaks today. How much of your time was taken? How much of your day was taken up by bleeding breaks? What's going on? Oh, Brian, what's happening, man? Joe came it and made muscle. Mike Smith, dumb question, Tony, but explain the difference between loose and tight converters. I mean, generally speaking, a tight converter is one with a low stall speed, 1,800 RPM, 2,000 RPM, like a typical, right? And then a loose converter would be a performance converter, 3,000, 3,500, 4,000, 5,000 RPM is loose. Now, among your loose converters, you've also got loose and tight, meaning that you've got some converters that'll flash, right, easier than others. Meaning that it takes less resistance to reach their stall speed. So, like when you say loose and tight converter, it's a whole, But generally speaking, people are talking about is it a stock type stall or is it a loose stall? A high stall. Joe K, any place or source to rent a helmet for the track? Bro, just buy one. You really want to wear somebody else's helmet? You don't know where their head has been, right? I mean, come on. Get your own helmet. Harley Hawk, what's happening, man? Brian, you're watching at work. There you go. How is work today? You doing good today at work? I've had a long day. I have to hunt for some push rods now for Plan Z. I was playing around in the shop today, and revved it, and it broke a push rod. So it broke the end of it off. So I made another one real quick. So I've got 6 functional cylinders right now, but I really need to get a set of push rods. Jason Fitch, helmets and bowling shoes, buy your own. Yeah, anything you got to put on your body, man, buy your own. I don't even want to sit in a seat after somebody else has sat there. I'm like, guy, I don't want to sit like there's a guy sitting in a seat. I don't want to sit in the seat after that. I'll stand. I'd rather just stand. Okay, yeah, but I don't go often. Yeah, but look at what a conversation piece it is. Stick it in the back window of your car, and people will be like, "Look, he's a hot rodder drag racer. Let's go talk to him. He'd be very popular." John Wilburn, what's happening, man? Randall Black, stall speed for 1,800-pound car. Ooh, 1,800-pound car. 200 R4, cam range 3,000, 6,500, 373 gear. Okay, so when you're dealing with a very light car, you need. Okay, I'm gonna explain this here. So let's say you have a 4,000 RPM converter. The converter is rated at 4,000 RPM, meaning that it'll flash like 4,000 RPM in a relatively heavy car. But when you're dealing with a lighter car, it drops that RPM even lower. So you want to talk to, I can't give you an answer for that. You want to talk to a converter manufacturer. And every converter manufacturer is going to have a different philosophy on how to make that work. So that's a good one. When you get into cars that are exceptionally light or exceptionally heavy, you have to throw those advertised numbers out the window. And now you're talking about a custom application. Mike Wilkerson. Tony, can you explain break-in oil for newly rebuilt engine? Break-in oil generally has higher levels of zinc, ZDDP, right? And that's so that surfaces like the cam and lifter mating surface have adequate lubrication there. There are other additives they throw in there. having to do with the rings and so on and so forth. But mostly break-in oil is about the cam and lifter surfaces. You can pretty much turn any oil into a break-in oil by adding an additive like a Lucas, STP, any of the high zinc additives. You can essentially make your own break-in oil. Let's see. Curtis Randolph, Uncle Tony, did 72 Dusters come with factory electronic ignition or points? I'm looking for a factory engine bay harness. The 340 cars came with electronic. The 318 and Slant 6 cars came with points. It's a mixed year. 72 is a mixed year. Bruce, what's happening, Bruce, from New Zealand? Is a microphone related to R2D2? It's crazy, right? Look, I didn't buy it. What's up with the meetup? Okay, yeah, Dallas. Well, here, you know what? Let's here. Oh, that's heavy. There you go. There's Dallas. Going Dallas. Okay, the meetup. Here's what happened with this. Okay, we had an open house when we first opened this place, and it was great. We had a great time. We had a fantastic turnout. And here's the thing: I'm in a place here with a dozen other businesses, and some of them. I have a lawn place. I have a mattress place. Oh, there's the real Dallas. Look, I just put the substitute Dallas there.
But we're already live.
Yeah, we've been live, man.
Oh man, I suck.
Nah, it's cool. John Wilburn says the new Dallas is an improvement.
Oh, well,
okay,
a little bit less rifle.
So wait, we're talking about the meetup. Okay, why we had to postpone it. So we had the first one, and we got a fantastic crowd. But we have other shops in this complex that operate over the weekends. So when we saw the number of people who were planning to come, we can't have that big of a crowd. We're not expecting that kind of turnout, and what's going to happen because it'll cause bad blood, right? If we block things up the way we did the last time. So it was way too much. And it's great. You know, I mean, it's awesome that you guys are enthusiastic to come and have a meetup with us. But it's too big to do that. So we're going to. We would have had easy 600 people here. We can't do that. I can't do that. I can't clog up this whole place. So we're going to find an alternate location, an alternate date, and we're going to have a get together. But you know, we'll work on that. But we can't. You know, we just can't do it. You know, I can't cause enemies here.
Everybody's digging on my shirt. Two things, though. So the super gay looking mic is really kicking ass.
It is gayer than anything I have ever seen in my life.
Why? Just the color?
The color and its basic kind of shape.
No, it's not meant to be used as anything but a microphone. So I don't know what you're using it for.
I'm not using it for anything, but it's like
what did German guy do out here? All right,
German people are funny, man. They're you know, Germans are out there, but yeah, it's gay, bro. It's gay. Just saying, but it works great.
The mic is meant to be is heard, not seen.
I hear it. Well, then stick it someplace where we don't have to look at
it. Well, it's still way better than the lapel mic we were using, apparently. But so everybody's digging on my Children of the Tall Corn shirt. Yeah, we had an event up in Iowa. It was the Tall Corn Open, and I made these shirts. And it's the Tall Corn, or it's the Children of the Corn logo with holding a 4-speed shifter in his hand, right? So I thought it was kind of cool.
I need you to get a hold of Shane for me.
What?
I need push rods in an emergency thing. I need emergency push rods.
Okay. Do you know what size they are?
I need 200 short.
200,000 shorter?
200,000 short for a slant
6. I started thinking about this.
I broke one just now.
For a what? For a slant 6?
Yeah, I just broke a push rod. Wham, wham, wham. And suddenly I had 7 cylinders.
Did it run better though?
Oh, it runs great. It runs fantastic. But yeah, I went wham, 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 and it broke a push rod. So I made another one real quick to stick in there so that it runs. But I need an emergency set of push rods.
Okay, well, we'll have to do something.
Yeah. Jeremy Woods, have you built any 3.9 V6 Dodge motors? They're the same as a 318. It's a 318. It's missing 2 cylinders, so there's no craziness or mystery there. Zach House 70. Hey UTG, whatever happened to that dust you used to have? It's in my backyard. I painted it and I just parked it, and it's just sitting in my backyard.
Oh, let's see.
Eureka 7 Wave is saying hey to you and me.
Oh, what somebody was asking me a question there. I was reading it. Nick, does that say Bernate?
Yeah.
Nick Bernate. Hey Dallas, I asked Uncle Tony about this previously, but he said,
Right, I remember that.
Differ to you, how much nitrous can a 215 Buick take? Oh, I don't know. They normally say if it's a cast piston motor, they're good for about 100 shot. The bigger they are, the more they'll take. So I'm assuming since it's smaller, it might be somewhere around 100 shot maximum, but it might be a little bit less than that.
Okay, but also, right, it depends on which 215 it is. If it's the Buick version, it's got 4 bolts per cylinder on each cylinder.
Yeah.
The Oldsmobile version has the extra cylinder head bolts. Yeah,
right.
so
it's meant for more cylinder pressure.
Right. So I would think that you would want to have the Oldsmobile version if you're going to try to spray it with any sort of anger.
Nah, it's the same as a Buick V6 or Buick V8. Same number of head bolts.
Okay.
So even a turbocharged Grand National has the same number of head bolts per cylinder.
Okay.
But
they don't have the outer row like the Oldsmobiles do.
No, but the 215s all have an outer row on the bottom. The Oldsmobiles have 4 more head bolts, 1 per each cylinder, up in the valley cover area.
Okay, and there's only the Oldsmobile ones.
Right. But here's the thing: the 215. The neat thing about it, one, it's all aluminum. So, but you're right. There's 2 variants of the 215 that people don't really talk about. You get the 215, which came with like a regular 2-barrel. Then you got the Power Pack model, which was 11-to-1 compression, and it was pretty hot. So I imagine if you put 100 shot on one of those, you might start running into problems like factory ring gaps being too small.
The kick and Dell just popped in. What's happening, brother man?
But the rule of thumb I like to use is how much nitrous are you going to give it? All of it. Like just take the jets out and spray the crap out of it.
Good one, Danny Boyd. Curtis Randolph. So the only difference 72, 340, and 318 engine wiring would be a plug for the ignition module. No, it's a completely different harness. The engine harness is completely different. It's a 72 is a 1-year only engine harness for the electronic ignition.
Mr. Will says, hey, Uncle Tony and Dallas finally bought my daily, found an 87 Olds 442 with just 13,000 miles. That's nice. 1 owner, fully loaded.
You're going to use it as a daily? That belongs in
garage
the Smithsonian.
Kept under a cover, has original tires. The car is a time machine. Bought this from his widow. Man, I don't know if I would daily that at all.
No, I would not daily that. No. No, that car is a bank account. Man.
Yeah,
that thing is gold.
Oh, exactly. And see, the 442 Olds actually came with the 8.5-inch rear end, just like the Grand National. They're pretty sought after, even though that 307 is not all that powerful. Man, what you really need to find is like just a regular Cutlass that's a beater.
Yeah, see, my rule of thumb, man, if it's something you're going to put on the street and use as a daily, I would rather start with a rough car, you know what I mean, and just poof it into where it looks nice, you know, it looks okay. Like the Swinger, my wife's Swinger is a perfect example. We built that out of parts that were just not nice enough to sell, you know. Knocked out some dents, slammed some Bondo in it, sprayed some paint on it, found some decent interior parts to throw in it, and now it goes out on the road and nobody cares about it. You know what I mean? And if the car gets totaled tomorrow, it was a pile of junk before I got started. If that was a pristine 13,000 mile car, I would never even fathom putting that on the road as a daily driver.
So Art Mallory asks, can you use diesel in the oil to clean out the engine?
Yeah, people do that.
Well, and I've heard of I don't know if diesels are high detergent, are they?
Yeah.
Okay, because I've heard
kerosene.
Is it?
Think about it.
Well, and it's probably on that same spectrum. I'm assuming that I've seen guys use automatic transmission.
ATF.
You know, and that's the big one because it's high detergent.
That's what I've done. Like when I've wanted to clean out a really gunky motor, I throw you throw a quart or two of automatic transmission fluid in with the regular oil, and just let it sit and idle for like a half hour. And when you pull that plug, when you pull that drain plug, man, mud
Chunks.
comes out.
Yeah, chunks
Mud.
and stuff.
But you see, that's one of the problems because you don't get it all. So a lot of that sludge will stay in the bottom of the pan. Like the oil drain plug doesn't completely. You know what I'm saying? So even after you've drained it, and you're still going to have sludge in the bottom of the pan, and there's a likelihood of that loosened up sludge finding its way into blocking or surrounding the pickup. So that's something you always got to be careful with that. But ATF works in my opinion. ATF works the best.
Yeah, if you're going to do that, like if you're going to add a couple of quarts of transmission fluid, just like he's saying, where it's idling, it's running and idling. The best thing to do that I found is like you let it run until it's like full operating temperature. Just leave it there for a good little while, and then drain it out and add oil. And take it out while it's still hot, and add some new motor oil in while it's still hot, right? While it's still warm. And then, but we used to do that to like demo derby motors. Some you would go pull out of the junkyard that you didn't want to rebuild.
Well, the kick in though is saying ATF also has higher lubrication properties as well as high detergent levels. Project Farm did a video on the lubricity. Oh, it's the first time I've ever used that word. Thank you, Kicking though. The lubricity of ATF versus kerosene versus diesel. Well, I don't think I would really even have to. I don't think I would have to test that. I mean, I know ATF is, ATF is it's a mineral oil, where kerosene and diesel are they refined to the next point where they're light enough to spontaneously combust. Compression combust.
John Wilburn says he knew a guy who raced the rustiest Challenger he's ever seen. He periodically let his engines idle for 20 minutes with 3 quarts of oil and 2 quarts of kerosene. It kept stuff really clean.
Yeah, it would, but it doesn't have that lubrication quality. Danny Boyd says ATF is miracle oil. Yeah, it actually does a lot of things.
Well, here's something that I thought was quite interesting. There was a guy in California that built the C4 in my Thunderbird. He did a test, and he actually drained the ATF out of his transmission and put Mobil 1 lightweight oil in it.
My brother back years ago, this was like in the 80s, he had a Mercury Cougar, and I don't know what transmission was. It was probably a C4 or some variant of it, and this thing slipped like crazy. So I threw a quart of engine oil in it, right?
Right.
And it stopped slipping. So he drove it for a month or two, and it started slipping again. So I threw another quart of engine oil in it. Well, eventually, I had all of the transmission fluid was out, and it was running on straight 30-weight engine oil.
Oh, wow.
And it shifted perfectly. It didn't leak, and it ran it. He drove that car for probably a year after that.
Huh.
And just fine.
Well, and it really, so automatic transmission fluid isn't like, you're not looking for lubricity, really. I mean, there is some lubricity that's required, right? But most of the time, it's actually just acting as a hydraulic fluid to compress the clutches and plates in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Needmel says, will it help with psoriasis?
ATF? Sure, try it out.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mainline it, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, you could try it.
Joe Brennan asks, do you guys bathe in ATF? I have taken a bath in ATF before. Have
Who
you?
has?
I'm sure you
Who has?
Have you ever swapped a tranny before, especially like in a hurry?
Oh, I remember like when I was a kid. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know. That's where I was doing it.
Right. Now you get older and you're a little more patient. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you let it drain.
Yeah.
Right? But when you're a kid, you don't think like that. And it's like you do a transmission job and just head to toe, you're just drenched in this stuff.
Well, when I was thrashing on the one from the Suburban, it kind of reminded me of that because I didn't drain one drop out of that sucker, right? And I'm like, I got to pull it down, and I'm, the funny thing is where you end up taking the bath is when you get it off center and it pours out the rear, or the torque converter falls out when you're taking it off the motor and it just pours out. But it reminded me of that, and I didn't drop really any oil.
Well, Plumber 78, Tony in Dallas. This is a good one. I bought an RCI fuel cell with a 0 to 90 ohm sender and bought a 0 to 90 ohm Equus gauge. Hooked everything up correctly. It reads full when empty, vice versa. Replace sender, same issue. Try swapping the polarity.
Yeah. It sounds like you might have the hot side on the ground side.
Yeah. Yeah. Just try swapping a polarity on it. See what happens. ATF is a bad word for gun owners. Gozinia. Oh, Dick Gozinia. Okay. Very. It took me a minute, right?
It's a German guy.
I'm a little slow.
Where'd it go?
Very early automatic transmission fluid had sperm whale oil in it. Yeah, I know that. If you ever crack apart like a transmission, you pull a car out of the junkyard that's been sitting there since like the 60s, something from the 50s. Yeah, it's got that weird smell. That's probably what it is. Well, pardon. Thank you, sir.
Says Adirondack Nationals videos are up on my channel now.
Go to Moparden's channel and go watch his Adirondack Nationals videos and like the videos and subscribe to his channel.
Speaking of Nationals, I threw that video up there today or yesterday of the slanted Nationals. I took a bunch of the pictures I got and threw them all in one big movie trailer.
Nice.
Right. And it turned out pretty good. I was kind of impressed. There's quite a few people have watched it already. But I've had enough interest now that I think I'm going to end up doing it again next year, but this time we're going to do domestic inliners.
Yeah, make it expand it beyond the slant six.
Right. Yeah. Like so your GMC inline six and your Chevrolet inline six and
absolutely. That's how I would have
Jeep
done it
or AMC motor. Well, I didn't think about it because it was like I knew a lot of slant guys and you were doing the slant stuff. And I thought, well, dang, there's got to be quite a few slant guys out there. Well, come to find out, just the guys I know and you were basically the ones that were there. And a lot of it probably had to do with the weather.
I think an event just for inliners, just doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
I think that would bring out a lot of people because you're going to have your rat rod people with your stove bolts.
Right. But you're also going to have the import guys, which no offense, but the import guys oiled down the track because most of their stuff is coming from the junkyard. Well, nobody makes anything for them. Yeah. So they beat on the stuff. It's the way the things used to be. So I was trying to lean towards domestic inliners, right?
Well, I mean, are you going for the crowd or are you going for...
Just, I wanted to keep it like we had the Slanted Nationals. That was freaking amazing. Everybody enjoyed it. They had a good time.
It was a really nice race. It was a nice event, but it was sparse. Eugene Bryant, no imports. What's your beef with imports, Eugene? Because I have no beef with them at all. I love watching the import guys. Doesn't mean I want to go do it myself, but I like watching them. I mean, Boosted Boys. Have you seen the Boosted Boys? Have you ever seen that channel?
No.
Oh, Jesus.
No. And the reason, like I said, I wanted to all right. So the magic behind the Slanted Nationals was one, you had a small crowd and everybody all had one niche thing in mind, right? Mm-hmm. Which was inliners. And they were there. They were just happy to have an event for just themselves. And the other thing is when you go to the track, the inliners generally have the slant sixes had, you got your, let's see, 904s. And if they had something really healthy, they might have a 727 in there, right? I don't know if they made a 727 with the slant.
Nobody would bother with a 727.
No, it'd take too much power. Okay. But they didn't have any Chinese blowing up. They weren't blowing axles out of them because you can buy an axle for those cars. It's fairly simple. Mm-hmm. But when you get to the import crowd, those front-wheel drive transmissions were only made for like 200 horse. They were not overbuilt.
Yeah, but right? they're going way fast with those things.
Oh, I know. But the problem is no one makes all kinds of crazy parts for them to have any kind of robust drivetrain.
Well, that's not true. That's not true at all. They have a huge aftermarket support.
For a drivetrain?
Yeah, a lot of.
I mean, when I was in California, those things were spitting axles and blowing trannies up left and right.
Well, that doesn't mean the stuff isn't available. It just means you're looking at the really low buck guys. The backyard guys that are just junkyard scrounging and putting stuff together. But the serious import racers, they have anything you can imagine. They've got.
But you want to know what's murder for a drag race or a performance race? Downtime on the track.
I know all about it. I've caused enough of it. Jonathan Couchy, you never said anything about diesels. Yes, inline Chrysler. Yeah, bring the Cummins, man. Bring the Cummins.
No, I can't do that. That'd be like that's bringing a hammer to the Tiddlywink contest. I really wanted to keep it domestic inliners. I mean, there isn't anything for those guys.
Tom used Tony in Dallas. Even a 2JZ won't make power without the turbo. I mean, there are guys who run pretty hard NA with those. I mean, it depends what you consider power. 700 horsepower, 1,000 horsepower. Yeah, it needs turbo. But then what are you going to get out of a Slant 6? What are you going to get out of a Stovall, a 300 Ford?
Gabriel DeMarco was asking you, how did the Miata do at the track? I don't think he tracked
It
it.
hasn't. No, the only local autocross was the same day as the Slanted Nationals. So we had a choice which one we were going to go to. So we went there. The kid Garrett, who's part of the Junkyard Jet crew, he's going to take it to the next autocross they have here in Clarksville, but I don't have a date for it.
So Mopar Man 1978 says, Tony in Dallas, I swapped the 2 positive and negative wires on top of the sending unit and made no difference. What about at the gauge?
Yeah.
Kickendale, yeah, we're looking at the whole thing that we're looking at. You ask Dallas, can I bring a 4.0 straight 6 to the Nationals? I'm assuming that's a Jeep, right?
That's
or
Chrysler.
AMC.
Yeah,
that's exactly what we're focusing on is just those kind of engines. So 292 Chevrolet, 4-liter Jeeps, which it could be the Chrysler variant, or it could be the 258 AMC variant. Speaking of the Junkyard Jet kids, what was the verdict on their crank?
I have not looked at it yet. Tomorrow I'll look at it. I think they're going to come over. I think we're going to do another live tomorrow evening with them. They're going to pull the heads apart, so we'll look at the crankshaft then. Bob Bump, I'm thinking the whale jizz thing was an old mechanic. No, it wasn't whale jizz. Jesus Christ. Sperm whale is a type of whale that has a lot of fat, and it's not whale. Nobody ran their transmissions on whale splooge. It was oil, from the fat.
So, what does that say? What's on the 2B?
Yeah.
Says Slanted Nationals was like the Rodney Dangerfield of car events. Exactly. That's why we put it on. And really what was cool about it was probably the most down-to-earth drag race I've ever been to, where everybody was just kind of kicking back and hanging out, right? I mean, it's not like your normal drag race event.
It was as relaxed as you could possibly get.
Yeah, it was like there was people that, virtually if you didn't talk to them, you thought they were sleeping, right? But yeah, we wish you would have came out. And I think, the weather really did scare some of them off. There was 4 or 5 of them that were like, damn, I should have came. So.
Jonathan Couchy, don't forget the Mitsubishi and Nissan diesels. No, how could we forget them?
What's your opinion on the moon?
Lolly Silly Fun Time Games. I like that name. My opinion on the moon? Save that for the Sunday night show. The Wednesday nights we try to stick with tech, and then the Sunday night shows we go to all different kind of places with that. So yeah, we'll come back Sunday. We'll talk about that. Dave Kuhn 13, $5. Thank you, sir. That is awesome.
And Fubar's putting the link up to the AHRA page, so you can go on there and get yourself a membership or buy some merchandise. Or oh man, that's what I did this morning. I smashed all these freaking knockoff artists on eBay.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, like copyright infringement kind of thing, right?
Oh, people are jacked.
Oh, dude, yeah, they're like literally taking food directly out of my kids' mouths, right? And I got to do it probably once every 6 months. And this year I've been slacking. It's been just a chaotic freaking year. And
I don't think anybody's pirating my stuff.
Oh my God! Well, you haven't been around long enough, right? That's the thing is the AHRA name has been around forever, so everybody remembers it. But man, does people knock it off out of China and India and
Go Garage. Thank you, sir. Did you guys ever test out the weight difference of paint? Not yet.
We will.
Yeah, we will.
That guaranteed.
Yeah, we were actually just talking about that yesterday. I compared my frame with paint and without. It was a little less than a pound. 115.6 without and 116.4 with black 2K ceramic paint. Yes, but did you weigh the paint ahead of time? Because that's the question.
Yeah, was it 8 gallons of paint to do the frame, and it only came out to being
the paint,
or 8 pounds per gallon. I'm sorry, a gallon to do the paint of the frame.
Right. That's the big question, and it's also the primer also that you got to throw in there.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna get a whole panel, and then we're gonna try to determine what the square footage of the panel is, so that you can get a poundage per square foot. Does that make sense? So all we got to do is a fender, but then you could come up with an entire idea for a car. Poundage per square foot. Mopar Man 1978 says he did swap on the gauge and still no difference. Well, brother, I do not know what to tell you then at that point.
Call the manufacturer. Delusional veteran. That's a great one, man. I love some of these names. I really do. There's a history episode of a drag racer that put modified 351 Cleveland heads. Yeah, that's in your experience, how much modification would that take?
Ellison's Machine Shop did a video on that.
Okay. It's not done anymore because there were no, okay, see, back in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and into the 80s, almost everything was class racing. It was before bracket racing. So to meet the rules of certain classes, people would go and do crazy things like that inline six where they sectioned up the 351.
And that was generally modified or gas class.
Yeah, gas, modified, comp eliminator. And so to take advantage of certain rules, they would come up with these crazy contraptions that took huge amounts of time. I mean, you're talking about guys who would spend a year or two building an engine and exactly like that, sectioning cylinder heads and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But because everything is bracket racing today, really, for the most part, it's either heads up, no breakout, run what you brung. And in that case, nobody's going to mess around with an exotic.
There's no class framing rules to keep you within the bounds.
Or bracket racing, so none of that stuff is done anymore. But yeah, I'm very familiar with that stuff because I would see drag racing back in the 70s and 80s. Drag racing was my religion. So yeah, and I was specifically drawn to oddball things like that.
Well, Ellison's Machine Shop, and they're here on YouTube. They did a video on this. They actually got one in their shop and they tore it down. And the guy was just amazed at the amount of work that was in this thing. And
I saw that video.
Right. Well, and the heads were cast iron and they were brazed back together, like furnace brazed back together, right? Which is, oh my gosh, in the 80s, that must have been about the most cutting edge technology you could have possibly got.
I could only imagine the machining that thing had to go through to get it all back in line after.
I would have hated to have ended it.
By the time they were done, it was probably like this.
It better have ran after all that work, right? But,
and then just weeks on the on the lathe.
Well, Dave Coon 13 says, "What do you think of the modern Buick 3800 motor? Car Wizard YouTube channel says it's a bulletproof motor if you replace the plastic parts with metal upgrades." Dave, we got something kind of cool for you. Tony and I did a historical video on the 215 Buick, the evolution of it, right?
Yeah.
But it included that 3800 series 1, 2, and 3.
Right. The 3800 is essentially the 215 Buick V8 with two cylinders cut off and then another 50 years of evolution on top of it. So it is a bulletproof engine, and when we're near bulletproof engine, it's fantastic. It's one, and we called it, right. And I'll go by this, the most versatile engine of all time. But the people say, "Oh, it was a small block Chevy because of the small block Chevy and everything." But the small block Chevy didn't have that many derivatives. Okay, you had the small block Chevy, you had the Vortec, you had the LS, right? And that's it. That's you. And the LS doesn't even really relate to the small block Chevy. It's a Chevy and it's
a Buick.
Small block, but it's really a Buick, right? So, but for our money, the what we determined, with our vast experience,
right? Yeah, and our science.
The Buick, that engine is the most versatile engine of all time.
Yeah, it's been refined so many times. Okay, so we got one more super chat here.
No,
we got that one. All right, so we're caught back up now, I guess. Yes. Let's see, anything important? There was a channel that put LS heads on a Ford Windsor. Well, you know what? Okay, I think you know what? I'm about to finish this racing season here soon, right? And I'm going to have to dive into some of this because it pisses me off at these. And I like Fords. I like Ford Windsor motors. But these guys are all claiming, "Oh, it's a copy of the LS, or the LS is a copy of the Windsor, blah, blah, blah." No,
the LS doesn't even resemble the Windsor.
Right. It's actually a Stage 2 Buick V6 in V8 form. That's all.
With the cathedral ports.
Right.
Add the cathedral ports to a 3800.
All they did was right. And so if you look at the Buick Stage 2 V6, the only thing that's exacerbated, that's different, about the heads is those cathedral ports on the LS, because the Buick has a tall, narrow port anyway, right? And that's for 100% preferred port velocity. So you maintain high port velocity, you have good torque characteristics. When they elongated that port even more, it allowed it to flow even more oil air. I'm sorry. You couldn't go any wider. If you look at any of them, like the Buick Stage 2 V6, you couldn't go any wider, but taller, not a problem. And I'm going to do a video, and I'm going to show the heads in comparison side by side so everybody can see them.
Jerry Poe, UTG, first time I could catch a live video in a few weeks. Welcome back, my brother. Will an A-body spool mount small block K-frame work for a C-body spool 440? Yes. In other words, the C-body 440 mounts that bolt to the block, will they go to an A-body? Yes, they will. Also, will internal parts of a Sun 6904 work on a 31894? Yes, they will.
So here's something just interesting that I was kind of diving into this week when I had a few minutes. So the LS53 motor has the same bore and the same stroke as the Stage 2 V6 Buick, but it also has the same valve sizes as the Buick 350 and the 300.
Dented Robot. Hey, UTG, awesome channel. Favorite sport outside of motorsports? Golf, maybe curling, eating. Eating. The only other sport that I have any interest in is eating.
Driving to a car event.
I actually hate driving.
Do you really?
Yeah, I really don't like driving.
Here is not bad. The traffic's not really all that bad.
No, I mean, I don't like sitting behind the wheel and driving.
Oh, really?
I mean, I'd rather just be in my shop.
Okay, fair enough.
but no, eating is my other sport. Olive, hey Olive, how are you, sweetheart? I'm actually pretty happy with the Vortec V6 in the truck. Scoots pretty good. Yeah, they're great engines.
Oh, should get an S10 or something?
I guess so.
Speed rolling buglers is your favorite sport.
I'm pretty good at that too. Iceman 2K10. One of the bolt-on boys says some people say traction bars don't work on Mopars. They're wrong. Is there any possible way he's right? You're the street king. I'm always on your side. Slapper bars do not work on Mopars. It's redundant. You don't need a slapper bar on a Mopar. And it's because of the asymmetrical spring. Slapper bars are intended for symmetrical leaf springs. And the whole purpose of that is to take that wave out of the front of the leaf spring, from the front section of the leaf spring. You don't have that on a Mopar because the front section is so short.
But Caltracs work like mad on a Mopar.
They probably do, but
oh, they work good.
I like screwing with the stock suspensions and pinion stubbers. Yeah. I'm not big on aftermarket parts at all, right? In other words, like
right now I'm not. Oh man, I'm getting well. If you had your problems,
if I can make a factory part work or a factory system work, I will go 18 ways to Sunday. If I got to work twice as hard and it costs me twice as much, and I have twice as many problems, I would still rather have the factory work with the factory or the OEM parts than anything aftermarket. For me to put something aftermarket into any car that I build, it has to be that there is no way that, you know what I mean? Like the system doesn't exist in OEM.
Right. No, I'm right there with you. Well, we were screwing with my Suburban. We couldn't get it to run worth a shit, right? And come to find out, I got a Moroso Advanced Curve Kit. How do you screw that up? You can't.
You can't. But
right. But I put it in there, and it worked great for a couple of weeks. And all of a sudden, it starts hanging up. And it's like, what the hell's going on with this thing? It was running great, and all of a sudden, and come to find out, the weights weren't advancing the actual cam on there, right? So, man.
Well, Pullman 1878. What about slapper bars on pickups? Well, a pickup has a symmetrical leaf spring, meaning that the axle is centered. So yeah, you could use a slapper bar would be a benefit on a pickup truck.
So how hard is it to convert a factory distributor to a dual point?
How hard is it?
Yeah.
it's not really doable. I mean,
Well, they make plates for them, right? That originally, like, there was companies that made them. So I've been looking for NOS, like 70s style dual point conversions for a GM distributor.
okay, for GM, yeah. They I remember that they did have dual point conversions for those. They didn't have them for Chrysler.
Really?
No, they had if you want a dual point, and you use a Presto light, because a lot of factory Chryslers came with dual points,
Okay.
right? So, but like for the standard Chrysler, like the aluminum Chrysler distributor, there was never any
Dual point setups.
dual point setups. But I remember seeing them for the GM cars.
Well, I'm kind of because I'm trying to make myself a dual point for this super stocker, right? And the benefit of the dual point is the dwell time, right? Because you can overlap the dwell time. And that's what I've been looking for. But I found an actual aftermarket Mallory dual point made from like the 80s or 90s. It was $165. And I thought, well, dang, man, for like $60, what can I get? So I wondered how hard it would be.
Gabriel DeMarco. Hey, Tony, did you check the fuel distribution on the Miata? I don't remember what carb you had on it. It's a stock intake manifold. It's a stock 2-barrel. It's a Super 6 intake manifold, and it has a BBD off of a 318.
Hey, Dallas, when I swap out the computer-controlled carburetor on the 442 for regular Q-Jet, is a M4 MC a good choice? Or is it too much CFM? Or does it matter? Okay, I'm sorry. Is it too much CFM, or does it really matter since it's for a small block olds? No. So a quadrojet, you can't really over carburate on a quadrojet because it's a vacuum secondary carburetor with those big secondaries.
Well, it's not really a vacuum secondary carburetor. It's a vacuum operated air door.
Okay.
You know, a true vacuum secondary carburetor would have the throttle plates themselves opening.
Right. Okay.
By
all right. So, but it will only open that secondary air doors to the point it reaches 0. Right. So it can't. It'll only open it and allow as much CFM in there as you need. Right. So you can't really over carburetor. But a M4M derivative carburetor is a great choice because you can actually knock the plug out in the top of the carburetor and thread that and put a plug in there. And then you can adjust a adjustable part throttle screw without having to tear the carb down, which is a big benefit. The only problem is finding metering rods, performance metering rods for them. But check with Cliff's High Performance I think they're in Pennsylvania or Ohio. I can't remember. But they got metering rods, custom made ones.
Joe K, thoughts on this? This is something that's out of our wheelhouse for sure. Joe K, thoughts on camber bolts or other means of adjusting camber on a front-wheel drive McPherson strut front end car? Car has a 1-inch drop lowering springs and is killing the inner edge of the tires.
So he just needs more outward.
I mean, it depends on the car. Do they make an adjustable cam? Of course they do.
Well, I'm sure they got like a caster camber plate that you can use. But if they don't have a caster camber plate, the only thing I can think of is the lower control arm where it bolts on. The bushings in there, there's some bushings that you can find that were made for, like, say, some of the GMs had them where they were concentric, or they weren't. Is that right? Is that the right word? They're off-centered?
Yeah.
So you can adjust the bushing around. Even the Chryslers had those too, right?
Eccentric.
Huh?
Eccentric.
Eccentric. Okay. So they're eccentric. The hole's not directly in the center. It's off-center. So you can turn that and move it in a 1/4 of an inch or out a 1/4 of an inch. And if you have the top adjustment and you're maxed out on adjustment, changing to the lower control arm bushings that are eccentric would allow it to move in and out.
Well, something that just dawned on me too. Are you sure it's a camber and not a toe issue? Because when you lowered the car, right, when you lowered the car, you straightened the angle, or you changed the angle on the tie rod ends, and that is going to affect toe.
Right.
So if you're wearing the insides, check toe out. Maybe go ahead. Try going half a turn on each side to get you some toe in, and see if that doesn't fix the problem.
Hippie Miller is asking if the valves are too tight, Will it stop the engine from revving on top end around 5K when cam is rated for 7K?
Yes. Yeah, if the lash is too tight, possibly, but it has to be really tight.
And I'm assuming this is probably a solid cam.
I would think it would be.
Because if you got it too tight at an idle, it'll drop the
wait,
cylinder.
no. On a hydraulic, okay. If you've got too much
Lash.
not enough lash. If you've got too much preload,
Uh-huh.
it's going to have a higher tendency to pump up the lifters at higher RPM.
Oh, once you get it spinning?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thought. Back them off a quarter of a turn and see what happens. But if it's a solid flat tappet cam, or even if it's just a solid cam that you have to have lash in there, generally the more lash you put in there, the more power it makes, but because it's smacking the valve harder.
Joe K, appreciate the input. A ligament tap of the lower control arms have no adjustment in the bolts. Yep, I'm telling you, man, play with the toe. Play with the toe. That I bet you that'll fix your problem. Wayne Walleye, how can I stop wheel hop on a 4x4 on my 2012 3/4 ton Ram diesel? Well, that's a case where a slapper bar could work for you.
Those are coil spring.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
What, in the rear?
Yeah. I had one of them things, and they were coil sprung. I don't know about the 3/4 ton. I'm pretty sure the 3/4 ton is as well.
Oh, I couldn't imagine a 3/4 ton being.
I believe it is coil sprung.
I don't know. Wayne, is it coil sprung or is it leaf? Spring. Oh, wait, yeah, spring. Coil spring or leaf spring?
Oh, Gene King says he got a 454 from a junkyard recently, and 3 rods were rainbowed at the wrist pin. Any idea what that would have done that?
Well, when that engine had been rebuilt at some point, and that's from
Pressing in
refitting
the rod or the wrist pin.
Yeah, so somewhere along the line they changed 3 pistons in there, and what happens when so press fit pin, they press the old piston off. Okay. And then when they go to put the new one in, they heat the rod, the small end of the rod, the pin end of the rod in a furnace. They get it to like almost a dull red that expands it. And then this way the pin just slides in without any violence. So that's why those were rainbow colored on that.
Wayne Walleye saying it's a leaf sprung rear end.
Yeah. That's right. I figured as much.
The half tons are all coil.
Yeah. A slapper bar may work for you. And you might want to look into a Caltrac setup. Something like those Fab Fight traction bars for wheel hop. Yeah, just there's a bunch of different various traction bars on the market for that. Just look into a traction bar for it. Bad Tree Productions, UTG or Dallas? What is your preferred drag radial brand style? What shouldn't people waste their money on? I am just learning about drag radials.
Well, and Tony's way ahead of me because I have owned 0 sets of drag radials because Slicks work so damn well.
Let's come back and have this conversation in about 3 years after I've had some experience with them.
I have not really screwed with them. I'm sorry. I do know that a radial will hit harder than a traditional drag slick because of the wrinkle wall.
Sean the person, what was the reason for a lot of GM brands sharing the same displacement sizes, like the 350, 400, and 455? I never thought of that.
Well, I'll tell you some of it, what I do know. Okay, so a lot of the engines share a similarity with 400 cubic inches because that's all that was allowed in an A body, in an intermediate body, up until 1970.
Yeah, right? That explains the 400. But why the 3 different 455s?
The 455, I don't know. I think it more or less, Chevrolet came out with the 454, right? And you had to one up that. That's all I can come up with.
But you got Pontiac, Oldsmobile, and Buick all with 455s.
Right. I honestly don't know.
That's a damn good question.
And the 350s. I mean, they all had a different 350 at the same time as well.
Well, I think the 350 would be a magic number for family car.
Right.
Right. It's a good, because it's like, the average consumer
good
buying
round
a car.
Number for,
it's a good round number. They know it's a 350.
Right. Because if you hear something like 289, you're like, oh, that sucker's going to be weak. I turn the air on, try to head up a hill. Right.
Right.
But yeah. Well, and that's why Ford went with the 351. And I mean, it is a good average number for a regular daily driver car.
Brian Juffs. It's funny you should ask that question, Brian, because I swear to God, not 3 hours ago, I was on Wikipedia looking up Jeep Patriots, just because I'm curious. I happen to like the way they look, right? They remind me of XJs, but they're tighter, they're smaller. And I was like, gee, I wonder
That's a minivan.
I wonder what the deal is with those. What, the Patriot?
Oh yeah, that's a minivan.
Well, it's a minivan. It's a Dodge Caliber.
Right.
But rebodied in the form of a Jeep.
Right.
So I was curious about it. I was just curious. Well, what happened was over at the auto auction place. I have an auto auction place here in town, and they're lining up cars for the next, for this coming weekend's auction.
Oh, in Murfreesboro?
Yeah.
Oh,
And there's a Patriot sitting on the front line. There was a red Patriot, and all the windows are blown out of it, and the airbags were exploded. And I was like, gee, I bet you I could pick that up for a song. And I said, I like the way they look. I like that they're tight and small and stuff like that. So I actually looked into that. Are they Mopars? Not
Not
really.
Your true sense of the word.
Not
right?
in my sense of the word, no.
But can you get into auto auction?
Can I get in?
Yeah.
No, it's open to the public.
Oh no, you got to go out there and fill out paperwork. I did all that.
This one over here?
Which one? The one in downtown Murfreesboro.
Well, okay, the collector one that they have is open to the public. Anybody can go in.
Huh. Somebody was asking, can they add an overdrive or fifth gear to an A833? Yes, gear vendors.
Yeah, they make a.
That's your only option, I think. Or you can find a later. Is it a later A833s that came with overdrive?
Yeah, 1976 and newer 833s were all overdrive transmissions, but it's a 4-speed overdrive.
Nobody makes a good CVT. Oh, I don't know about that. I wouldn't say in the car world, but man, Cub Cadet had them nailed in the 80s.
Mr. Will says, hey guys, I told a buddy at work about UTG channel. He loves it. He maintains his and his wife's daily cars. He's hooked and really likes the EV chat. Trying to get you guys some more. Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
What's the EV chat?
I did think about EVs, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've been watching my old Jetfire when he says overdrive is overrated on classic cars. You're right about that. A lot of people don't take for granted that classic car engines that were designed in the 60s and the 70s, and even into the early 80s, all of those things are designed to operate optimally at about 3,000 RPM. So, and when you drive a modern car, and they're all tuned for low end torque. So if you drive a modern car and you're used to being on the highway at 80 miles an hour at 2,000 RPM, you get into a classic car and you're doing 3,300, 3,500 at that same RPM. With the outdoor overdrive. Well, that's actually where the engine was designed to run. That's where they're in their happy zone. It sounds like the thing is trying to come apart.
Oh, well, I'll give you a perfect example. You tow with my Suburban, right?
Yeah.
2,500. And that's what you would normally run about 65 miles an hour.
Yeah.
That's where it's like, it's got the most snap.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. 2,500, 3,000 RPM.
It probably also consumes the most fuel there. But these guys are beating on 305 Chevys. 305 Chevy is not a bad motor. I mean, that's what made America through the 80s.
Martin Wallingford. Hey, guys, I'm finding it harder and harder finding conventional oil. Really? Will switching to a synthetic blend be okay for a 7351 Cleveland? Shell Rotella. Use any diesel oil. Shell Rotella, Delvac. Any diesel oil has got enough zinc to keep your flat tappet cam happy.
I've also found that the Rotella T6, which is the synthetic blend,
yeah, they
make a 540 that you can pick up at Tractor Supply, and it's got more zinc in it than the regular Rotella.
Yeah, but I don't think our engines are that's the 5 weight.
Oh, really?
I would be. I like the 1540.
I like 5 because it's thin when it starts up, right? It's 5 winter. And then 40 afterwards, right? Once it's warm. Let's see, the 305s. Yeah, they were pretty bad about knocking the lobes off the cam.
Yeah, for a few years. It was just there was just a bad heat treat on those cams. I made a lot of money swapping those cams back in the 80s. Is 15W40 diesel okay for 318s and 360s? Yes,
Sure.
it is. It'll thrive on it. Dimitri Pitakos. Thank you, sir. Hey guys, I need a windshield wiper motor for a 1965 Dodge Coronet. Any help is appreciated. This build is a blast, and there's the last piece she needs. I don't have one. If anybody can hook Dimitri up with a do you need a 2-speed, a 3-speed, or a variable speed? There's 3 different options on that, Dimitri.
Man, I score that kind of stuff on eBay.
L in NC sent us $5, 5 scuttles. Thank you, sir. Or ma'am, I don't know. L could mean anything.
L is gender neutral.
Yeah, yes, non-binary. Wouldn't 305s break the cams in half? No, they just the lobes went round.
They ate the lobes off, and it. You know what's sad is like people remember that part, but they don't remember that it got 120,000 miles on them on an engine with no overdrive before it ate the cam. Which is actually pretty good. Most of those engines back then, most of the cars didn't make it past 100,000 miles. And those 305s, they just kept running. Even with a flattened cam, you'd take them out, and they'd have a lobe missing completely, and they'd still were driving them every day.
Mike Batista, 305s kept food on the mechanics table with cam swaps all day. You are absolutely right about that. I had the whole thing down to about 4 hours. I did one like every day. I was surrounded by used car dealers. So yeah, they were forever dragging cars home from an auction with bad cams. Kept everybody busy for a long time, and it was an epidemic. I mean, like literally every one of the damn things.
But it was like from what 78 to like 84 or something like that.
It was a little bit later. I think it was like 1981, 1982, 80, because the cars were only in the 5-year cycle. It was about 1987. So yeah, around 1982ish, 1983ish is when it was happening.
Tanner Staschak asks, he says he put a roller cam LA in an 86 Ram Charger today. I'm starting it for the first time tomorrow. What's the break-in procedure for breaking in roller cams? It's a hydraulic roller.
There is none, Tanner.
You are one lucky dude. You don't have anything to do except for start that sucker up and do burnouts.
Yep, just let it rip.
Does Dallas or Tony remember the Cadillac engine crisis of the 80s? Which one are we talking?
Which one? There's been Cadillac engine crisis.
Aluminum block, cast iron heads, North Star starters in the valleys.
Yeah.
I mean, blown head gaskets. Which one?
Yeah.
Take your pick.
The multi-cylinder thing, the 468, that whole digital fiasco in the Sevilles. Oh my God.
Well, even if you go before that, it was like, remember the 500s had the early fuel injection on them? Like I think it was the 500 or no, it was 500s.
No, it was the small.
It was the big blocks, right?
Oh God, I don't remember the cubic inches. It doesn't matter. They were just Cadillac really jumped the shark in the 70s, and they out-tricked themselves in so many ways.
That's what happens when you get so much neat shit on a car that you can't possibly, the engineering and science behind it hasn't actually supported it being in a mobile vehicle yet. That's what you're seeing today with today's new vehicles. I mean, who needs freaking TVs in the headrests and all this crap, body modules and this and that, and the interfaces, CAN bus interfaces where everything drops a link or freaks out if one thing goes bad? That's the problems you see today. And those, you would have thought they learned their lessons from some of those in the 70s, right? I mean, who wanted to touch a Lincoln from the 80s? Like nobody. You'd have to be on drugs to go buy one, or you found one real cheap.
Let me be frank. Should I add zinc to my oil change on a 68 383? I use O'Reilly's House 5W30. Yes. There's no zinc in that oil.
It is a good oil, though. You know what? I found this oil test online, and it might have been, I don't know who did it. Yeah, I was thinking that Project Farm guy might have done it, but I don't think it did, because I did an article for an AHRA newsletter on, I was going to have some oils. I had a guy check things out for me, right? And anyway, he sent me this big research thing on it. and it had this link in there for this list of motor oils. And I'll have to find it, see if I can find this dang thing, because there is a link on the web that this guy, he's an engineer, has purposely tested like 300 different motor oils. And he gives a breakdown on what he finds to be the best attributes. And that O'Reilly's 1030 actually came out ahead of like Valvoline. Oh man, it was, I want to say it was in the top 10 oils. Top 10 conventional mass-produced oils, but it does not have any zinc.
Thack says, new junk parts got me over the weekend. New U-joint with 500 miles. Toast.
I don't doubt that.
I don't doubt that at all. Was it lubed? Let's see. Automobile, one of the first computer engines in Chrysler. If you screen the air cleaner, it stops the engine. I don't know what you mean by screening the air cleaner. You're talking about the lean burn, and that thing was an absolute travesty. Just they literally did not work from new, right?
D. Scaglione is saying solid lifters or hydraulic.
Maybe.
Well, so here's, and I'm sure he's just asking a very broad, open-ended question.
No, he may be asking somebody. He may be answering somebody else's question.
Oh, well, I'm one that now, I used to say hydraulic if you're going to run it on the street, but with all the problems everybody's having today, man, put a freaking solid in there and just lash the valves every couple of thousand.
Yeah, seriously, I'm having the problem. I still haven't worked on it yet. I got to get to it. I have the rockers. I got the rockers now to go, adjustable with them, but I still haven't screwed around with it. But I mean, I'm watching all of these other channels, even the roadkill people. Everybody's having a problem with the hydraulic lifters collapsing. And the last I heard, right, this was last week, is that there are no lifters available right now from the aftermarket, like zero. So,
yeah, I use solid, and well, that's the kind of way I'd be going right now, because it's a lot easier to lash your valves and change the damn cam out.
Wayne Walleye screaming at me. Do you think a high zinc oil would solve the Hemi tick? No, completely unrelated thing. Tom Ashton, you don't buy used valve springs. Okay.
Randall Black says putting solids in his 215. Have at it. I think that'd be cool. They are, well, here's the thing. Buicks are non-adjustable rockers. So that's, to adjust your lash is going to be, all right. So there's an easy way to do it, and there's a hard way. Hard way is buy like $1,100 set of rocker arms, or the easy way is buy adjustable push rods.
Zero has checked in. What is happening, Zero? Let's see.
I think Ford 2.8s were solids. That's what Danny Boyd says. Was it 2.8 Ford? That was a 60-degree V6, right?
Yeah, that was a good motor. That was a German motor.
Right. That's what came. That was like the first variations of the V6s that were like in the in the Rangers.
They were originally in the Capris.
Capri. Okay.
Yeah.
So 2.8, 2.9, and then was there a bigger one?
Oh, I gotta remember.
Was the 4-liter one of them?
Harley Hawk put a new set of hydraulic lifters in my Pontiac 455, and they take it idle, and after it sits for 5 minutes on startup like bottle rocket. Yep. It's
welcome, my brother.
Welcome to the club.
Oh, D. Scaglione's asking if we ever did a video on vacuum. I don't think we've ever really. You've shown how to tune out of the vacuum gauge, right?
Yeah. I just searched vacuum. I've done a few videos having to do with vacuum. Douglas Fowler, this is a good question, right? Douglas Fowler, gentlemen, what are your thoughts on coupling two motors together? That's something that every gearhead, every hot rodder thinks about and looks at, because it's like, well, one is good, two is better, and you get like, the tractor pull guys that pile them in there, 8 freaking motors all over, pointing in all
The
different
freight
directions,
train.
right? And then the twin engine drag systems. Well, years ago, I had a long conversation with Gene Adams about this. And Gene actually had a twin engine top fuel car called the Double Eagle, and it was driven by Don Enriquez, and it had 2 injected 354 Chryslers on nitro. And he ran the gamut with this thing, and like I said, I picked his brain on it, and we went back and forth. And what he told me, and it actually pans out. You would think if you take 2,000 horsepower engines and you couple them together, you have a 2,000 horsepower engine, but you don't. When you put 2,000 horsepower engines together, you get like 1,200 horsepower. It's not the same. It's not the relation that you think. And especially on nitro.
But your torque.
No, torque. Yeah, torque up the wazoo, right? Torque up the wazoo. But horsepower, it's like the one engine only carries the pumping losses from the other engine. But on nitro, which was what I was specifically interested in, what happens is when you put two nitromethane engines together, because methane is load sensitive, you actually lose power and create all sorts of weird vibration and harmonic issues.
Yeah, because there is no load. It doesn't takes even less to turn it.
Yeah. So what it ends up is one engine runs the car and the other engine just pumps raw fuel.
It's along for the ride. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So David House here says, anyone use pin grade 1 oil? There's plenty of zinc for flat tap cam protection. And I think that's the Brad Penn oil, right? The pin grade.
Yeah, I think so.
Isn't it the one that used to be, what's the oil sponsor that Don Garlitz used to have?
Kendall.
Kendall.
Yeah.
That's what used to be Kendall, I believe.
You know, the thing is, there's all sorts of exotic and expensive and crazy like formulated oils. But honestly, if you take like a Lucas zinc additive, right, that they sell at any auto parts store, and you drop it into any conventional engine oil, you really have braking oil. There's no reason to spend $20 a quart for the exotic stuff.
Oh, and I agree. I bought some of the exotic stuff to break a motor in, and I found that I just go down to the parts store and I get braking oil. I told you when we did the very first video we did on this tech show was a cam break-in live on Buick 455, and I just started using the Royal Purple braking oil. I just stopped even messing around with any of it because I wasn't going to take any chances. So Wayne Walleye saying worst motor built in the muscle car era.
Worst engine built in the muscle car era.
Does it have to be from an American manufacturer?
Well, muscle car era would imply
American
manufacturer. Worst engine.
Oldsmobile diesel.
No, that's not muscle car. That's post muscle car. I would say the bigger inch Oldsmobiles were probably the least reliable of the. They always had like, okay, so. And I'm not talking shit. I'm not talking bad shit about the Oldsmobile. I like them. Okay, but I remember very distinctly back in the 70s and the early 80s, there were a lot of Oldsmobile. There was a lot of 442s and Oldsmobiles with bad motors. Like it was like the common thing. If you could pick these cars up for a song because they were sitting on the side of people's houses or whatever, and they all had bad motors. They all had a rod knock or a rod sticking out the side of the block or something. So I'm going to say probably the Oldsmobile out of the muscle car engines, I would say the big inch Oldsmobile.
I'd have to say that's probably true up to the 90s because that's what you always saw sitting in somebody's yard was like a pristine 442 or W30 car.
Mm-hmm.
But the motor would be gacked in it.
I had a guy right before he started doing his channel. I had a guy with a Trans Am that had a 403 in it. And
you know what? What was a bad one?
What's that?
The Ford 400M, right?
That's not muscle car era. That's post muscle car.
Smaller era.
Yeah.
Man, and it had the potential to be such a good motor because it had some.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I did a first. Thank you, sir. I did our first Rotella diesel 15W40 oil change in a 273 Barracuda for a ride up to Lake George, and the engine ran far cooler in stop and go traffic. Okay.
I don't doubt that. Yeah, that oil clings and dissipates heat.
Um, let's see. I have to get some. Want to hold on for it? I got to get a water.
Sure.
You want a water?
Yeah, I'll take a
A
water.
cool, refreshing H2O. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, Jason Gregory 307, worst motor ever. Are you talking Chevrolet or are you talking Oldsmobile? The Oldsmobile 307 actually was pretty reliable.
I mean, muscle car era. The question was muscle car era.
Yeah, muscle car era. So, oh man. Let's see here. Ford 400s warm up nicely. They do, but they also detonate nicely. What they found was the piston was in the hole like 80 thousandths or 100 thousandths. And you want to talk about something that's detonation prone? Give the piston 100 thousandths below the deck of the block. And man, it's not using the quench pad in the head. Now, if it's an open chamber head, it doesn't really matter. But that having that much piston in the hole, like that deck height on it, they were so detonation prone. The Ford 400s were detonation prone. And they're actually a Cleveland. To be truthful, the Ford 400 was a Cleveland, and
you know something. Los Cadaver. Reliability wise, I'd have to toss the Pontiac 400 from '77 under the bus. But you talk about the muscle car era, all Pontiacs, they had those cast connecting rods, the early ones. So the armor cast rods, right? Yeah, it's like so. Yeah,
that's what the Buick cranks are made out of. 360 Ford was not a bad motor. That was not a muscle car engine though, but it was from the era. But 360 Ford was not a bad motor. They were thirsty though.
Cool, life-giving earth juice.
Buick 340, you must be crazy. All right, what's the difference between diesel and gas engine oils?
Oh wait, I see. Just real quick on this, I see John Wilburn talking about the open house. So I talked about it at the beginning. We have to postpone the open house. The response was a little bit more, a lot more than we had expected. And I share this complex with a dozen other businesses, and we were at the max in intruding on their space with the open house, and this was shaping up to be much bigger than the open house that we had. So we're going to have to regroup, find another date in another location, and we'll let you guys know when that's going to be as soon as we can figure something out. But what's up with that? Okay, I'm sorry.
Sean, the person asks, what's the difference between diesel and gas engine oils? Well, diesel oils, because of the inherent way the diesel runs, have much higher detergents in them. Right. One. Two, they have zincs because they still were running flat tap style cams.
No, even the roller cam diesels use zinc because of the characteristics of the solenoid, the piston.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't.
Even the roller cam diesels still use zinc.
Well, and the only reason that zinc was removed from regular motor oil was that it was harmful for like O2 sensors and catalytic converters for emissions crap, right? Well, when you're talking an older engine that doesn't have any of that stuff, you just absolutely ruined it because it doesn't have a roller cam.
Myron Fountain, Uncle Tony, ever investigated a GPS timer like the Draghi? A lot of no prep races use them. Seem to be very accurate, 60-foot times in front of the shop. I want to put down a launch pad on the side of the shop and actually use it as, but it's just a matter of coming out here and doing repeated burnouts and building up a layer of rubber with the right kind of tires. You can't do it with street tires because street tires, yeah. So I'll eventually get to that. I'm so busy running this channel and doing all of the varied things. It's like,
you know what? I have an idea.
Yeah.
You got that, the storage lot that the junkyard jet car was stored on, right?
Yeah.
You own that or you leased that?
I leased it.
Oh, never mind. Well, if you had something that you own, we can just pour a pad out there. And I got the traction compound and we'll give it hell.
It's only 75 feet and it's gravel. I mean, it would cost thousands of dollars to level it.
Pour a slab. It. Nah, we can bag it.
Okay. Robert Grumman, young guy asking, what's the difference between an engine refresh and an engine rebuild? All right. When we talk about on this channel, when we talk about rebuilding an engine, we're actually talking about refreshing it. So if you want to get like in deep into the terms, if you tear a motor apart and you, let's say, fresh rings, bearings, you hone it, you lap the valves, you put it back together again with fresh gaskets and all that, that is a refresh. It's not really technically, we call it rebuilding, but it's not a rebuild. It's a refresh. To rebuild the engine, that's where every machine surface is gone over.
It has generally new pistons and primarily new hard parts.
Right.
You know, except for generally crank and rods, right? And then cylinder head and block.
Well, they'll still resize the rods, and you know, it's a much more involved process. Nader 1836 down there. Thank you, sir. Would Tony ever mess with a mechanical diesel? Somebody else's. I have no desire to own a diesel myself. They just don't do it for me. But I mean, I'm not allergic to them. I mean, if Dallas was to come up tomorrow and say, "Hey, I got this diesel, let's go screw around with it," I'm like, I'm all in. Let's do this.
Have you had one?
Have I ever owned a diesel?
I never had one until a 7.3 Power Stroke, and then it was like, oh my God, I'm in love. This is the best tow rig ever invented.
I've never owned one, but I tell you what, when I was a regular mechanic, in the era when the Olds diesel was out, the Chevette diesel, there were diesels everywhere, right? And a fair number of Mercedes, and I grew to really not like it.
I could see that because I remember how anemic those suckers were. I don't know if I ever told you, my grandfather was always like trying to wheel and deal stuff, right? And he bought like 5 or 10 Chevette diesels at an auction. They were all like Domino's pizza delivery cars back in the day. And what he did was he took like those 10 and made like 2, right? And actually he was taking them all and building them and then sell them as he would finish one, because they were getting 50 plus miles to the gallon back in the 80s, right? So people were buying them up just to daily them to death. And oh my God, my dad had my grandpa's for a while, and oh, what an anemic turd that thing was. It would not get out of its own way.
Ron Merniques. Hey, Uncle T, I did the brake swap on my 70 Roadrunner front drums to 78 Cordova disc with pin-style calipers. I weighed the knuckles with drums and everything versus disc. Everything only 2/10 of a pound different, or is it 2 ounces? That's because you had 11x3 drums on the front of the Roadrunner. The Roadrunners automatically come with the big 11x3 drums, which are very heavy. That whole setup is about 25 pounds heavier than the 10-inch drums that you would find on the standard car. And that's why you're only seeing a small difference. But I will tell you what, Ron. Now, be honest. Don't be prejudiced because you made the swap and you invested the time and the energy into it. Be honest now. Was it worth it when you made the swap? Did it stop? Did it stop any better with the discs than it did with those 11-inch drums?
Well, and here's the other thing that everybody's dogging on the Olds diesel at the moment, but it did produce a pro stock Oldsmobile block, pretty much, is what it did come out of that.
It produced refrigerators full of food for me. it absolutely produced a lot of things.
Oh, no way. Who says this? Lowe's Cadaver. A gas 460 makes more power and torque than the 7.3 Power Stroke in early Cummins. Timing will rattle it to pieces. Oh, man, you are on drugs. I'm sorry. But, yeah, no, on the torque, that's a big no bueno. The 460 did not make more torque than that 7.3 Power Stroke.
Wheelie King. Tony, you need to play with a mechanical VE pump Cummins. You can basically increase the output from the factory setting for $100 with a spring and a screwdriver. I know how I mean, I'm not technically, I know how versatile they are. I know how good they are, right? But I'm not into the vehicles that they come in. Does that make any sense? It's like, you could come and swap a Volare. I get that, right? But the vehicles that they come in, I really don't like. Like the biggest thing I own that I want to own that I ever care to own is my wrecker, and even that's too big. I like smaller vehicles. So because of that, I stay away from the quality diesel engines. Does that make any sense? Did the fellow that did the brake swap ever get back?
I was looking for. I was actually looking at everything that we had there, and most of it's everybody talking amongst themselves, or still bashing on the 350 olds of diesel, which I really want to block. I do want to block.
The pro stock motors will use that block,
right? And that's the only way you can actually have a non-windowed main 403 olds is that block. And I want to see what a 403 will really do. You put I don't know if you can put a 425 crank in one, steel 425 crank in a 403 style block. Is it the same stroke? I think 425 has more stroke. Oh, actually, I can use a 330 crank in a 403 and really turn her up. Put some C heads on it. Oh, man. Talking horsepower. What's that one about the Buick 350 there? Hey, Tony, is it possible to make a 350 Buick 2-barrel near a 350 horse solid lifters and naturally aspirated? You don't need to go solid lifters on those. The factory 70 motors made 315 horse and 410 foot-pounds of torque. But to get 350 horse is fairly easy.
Well, you're not going to do it with a 2-barrel.
No, you got to get rid of that 2-barrel first and go to a 4-barrel for sure. But the big one is okay, so in 75, they came out with the big valve heads, which have a bigger exhaust valve. I've always had better luck with those than I have the earlier heads. Now, the earlier heads are said to flow better, but that's all a little bit of bench grinding, and that's done. But the 75 heads is where I would have started from. And if you have a later block, that's good because you can't put the later heads on the earlier blocks, but you can put the earlier heads on the later blocks. You have an extra water passage in there.
On Killing Big Bad, Tony, if you still want to build a Ram Charger for mile per gallon to Cummins, might be cool. I got rid of I see, that's the thing. I was going to do something with the Ram Charger, and it just didn't talk to me. I got rid of it. And I ended up, now I've got some XJs, some Cherokee XJs, and that's what I really want. Like the Ram Charger is just too ponderous. The XJ is perfect. It's exactly the kind of thing that I love. So yeah, the Ram Charger is long gone and never to be replaced by another one like it. And I'm all about XJs right now. I'm actually like in XJ ecstasy at the moment. I'm in love with these things.
I'm kind of wondering I'd like to start engine swapping a few of them, see what we can do.
I have that white one. I
thought that one was perfect, and you wanted to leave it just as is.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't mind playing around with a different engine swap with it. You know what I mean? But I don't want to mess with the body or anything.
Make it look bone stock.
Yeah.
And I've been on my search now. You know what? I passed up. Well, we talked about it a couple of videos ago, where I found that freaking Opel GT for $700. We both did, right? And I was like, "Oh, I gotta go get that." And then, of course, it's gone before I get back. And the last thing I need is another car, like a hole in the head, right? But I've been searching for an Opel GT or a Cadet, and I found a Cadet wagon, a 2-door Cadet wagon, with a 215 and a T5. Oh, that'd be pretty neat.
That would be. Kenny Whitten, the people who cry about bracket racing can't cut a reaction time and can't dial a car. I cannot cut a light to save my life. You know what I mean? Dialings is it's like magic 8 ball. What is this car going to run? Right? So I don't think I've ever actually won.
But you don't cry about bracket racing, though.
No, I don't cry about it at all. I'm total. I used to think of it as automotive communism, hot running communism. You know what I mean? But my ideas of that have changed because I understand the skill level involved in it. I didn't appreciate bracket racing until I realized I couldn't do it.
This is too hard.
Right. No, I'm serious about that. I was I used to talk shit about bracket racing back when I was doing a lot of street racing and was playing with nitro cars, and I was like, "Oh, bracket racing is ass. It's communism, right?" And then when I tried it, right, and I realized, no, I am not capable of doing this. That's when I gained a whole huge respect for bracket
So
racers.
that was my thought on the Street Outlaws guys, to be honest with
What's
you.
that?
Well, when they first came out on their show, see, I think the most unprofessional thing you can do as a person is take from somebody else to make you look better, right? That's a very unprofessional thing to do in any form. So if you want like basic rules of life, don't take from somebody else that's
Right.
to make yourself look better. But when that show first came out, that's what they first started doing was beating on the old bracket racer guy, like, oh, are you a track racer or are you a street racer? And then what's funny is they're all racing on a track today, right? All of them. They
Yeah,
don't race
but they're
anywhere
not
but the
bracket
track.
racing.
Right.
Yeah.
So
They don't even
what they
turn on
did
the
was
clocks.
they took from the bracket racer to give to themselves. And I always thought that was very low buck. But generally, when you found the guys that hated bracket racing was because they weren't good at it. They couldn't do it.
Kenny Whitten, bracket racing is the fairest sport in the world. It's all about the driver and consistent car. Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. I'm not talking shit about bracket racing. 20 years ago, yeah, I probably would have, right? But I learned when I got out there and I tried it, right? And I realized that I cannot cuddle. I'm just not a light cutter. You know, I learned how to cheat in like street racing, right? You know, like I would when you go street racing, you watch the cadence of the starter. You know what I mean? And because they always do the same thing, you know, even if they, it doesn't matter if it's a light or an arm drop or a count, right? You study the starter, you watch a bunch of races, you study the starter, and you figure out how to cheat. You know, how do I get moving when he's on the 2.5 count, right? So that's all. That was it. Okay. So when I actually tried to cut a light, right, I am not capable. I'm not wired for it. It's just I'm not wired for it. My reflexes are hair trigger. So I red light. It's just there's the red fucking light. And then if I try to tame it back, and I'm like, okay, be slow, be the tree. You know what I mean? And it's like the other car's at the 60, and I'm still like trying to react, right?
You know what?
So
That's one thing we need to do.
not everybody can do it. And I'm one of those people. I cannot do it.
We need to go to a bracket race, and I'll show you some bracket race. We'll do a video of like bracket race techniques. Right? How do you dial the car? How do you cut the light? Like, and how do you hold? Like, people don't understand that stuff, and it's so much fun when you do understand it. It's probably the most fun I've had at the drag strip. That's cost effective, I guess I should say, because you can have a lot more fun in a heads up class. There's nothing like heads up. There's nothing like heads up at all. I'm going to tell you that right now. If you've never ran heads up, there's nothing like it. But it's two different worlds. It is literally two different worlds. And I really like both of them. Bracket racing is the most fun because it's the most challenging, I feel.
I've gotten to the point in my life that I'm really not interested in racing. I'm interested in playing with things. Does that make any sense?
I do know what you mean. Yeah.
Right? Like I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
Well,
win, lose, or draw.
It's great racing it the one time, and then you're like, okay, let's move on to the next thing. Right? Like, I can't wait to get to the track, and you do it, and then you're like, all right, I'll move on to the next one.
Well, I'm having a blast with this Lane 6, and it's like it'll never be fast. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It'll never be impressive. Like, oh my God, look at that car go, right? Whether it ever wins a race, I don't care. I like the challenge of I'm going to find the next. Right now, I'm looking for another second. I'm looking to take a second off the ET. And then I'll be looking to take a half second. Then I'll be looking to take 2 seconds, 2/10 of a second. And then like once I get down to where I'm looking for 1,000th, you know what I mean? A 10th and 100th, right? That's when I'll really be in my glory. And that's what I enjoy doing. I could care less what's in the other lane.
So somebody was asking me here, okay, Dallas does, I'm assuming that means AHRA, use altered trees to mix up box racers from cheating. No. So the way I do it, things are a little bit different. I have a different perspective on the whole thing, is that we incentivize, and by incentivize, I mean like cash incentivize people to make, okay, the electronics when they first came out were not, they had this moniker of being unbeatable, right? Because this makes things perfect. but they're not unbeatable. If you're a good bracket racer, you can beat on the box guys all day long. All it does is take somebody that's, let's say they're mediocre. It makes them pretty good because the box fills in the voids. You take somebody that's great and you give them a box, and there's not much of an improvement, right? They can't be greater. So it was always good and fun. I always found it was fun. I love doing things that shakes things up. And a foot brake racer that's good, shaking up the box class, I pay him double the performance-based payout. And that's the way I cash incentivize things. You'll get a payout from the AHRA if you win the box class with your box, but you get double the payout if you do it with a foot brake car. We also have one for stick shifts too. It's like $2,000 to win if you got a stick shift. Those guys got all the odds against them, right? But imagine it as somebody in the stands. If you understand how that's going, and in one lane there's a guy racing for $300, in the other lane there's a guy racing for $2,000. That makes all the difference in the world to the person sitting in the stands. So that's how we do it. If you have a delay box, you're still reacting to it. You are.
Let's see.
But I'm just a foot brake guy, and that's what I've always been, foot brake. I think I told you, I built my car for super gas, and I ran it all with no electronics.
Sean Fagan, what do you think about this, Dallas? Sean Fagan says the Pinewood Derby has a better payout than the AHRA.
Yeah, well, I don't doubt that. Yeah. Ours is based on members. So the payouts are based on how many people are members at the time. Every time that someone joins, it pretty much goes up by $5. So it is what it is, Sean. But if I had 2,000 members, you wouldn't be bitching at all because I'd be paying more than the NHRA pays. So that's how it works. The more members there are, the bigger the payout.
Jason's Garage said he had way more fun foot braking than any other racing. This thing slowed way down.
Yeah, probably because that douchebag comment. But I'll just maybe. Can I say that on the air?
Yeah.
Sean's a douchebag and made a comment like that.
Don't think it personally. I think he was just busting chops.
No, he was busting my chops, but it is kind of annoying. Like I put a lot of effort into this thing.
We know that. No, but he's a regular. He's not a.
That's fine. He can be a regular douchebag. I don't care.
Don't take it personally. Let's see. And hey, maybe the Pinewood Derby pays out a big chunk of cash.
Never raced it.
Let's see. The video Vault of Horror. Brian Bricker says, if you're worried about payouts, you're doing it for the wrong reason. AHRA is the future of grassroots. I will agree with that.
I gotta stick to it. That's the thing. I can go big payouts, guys, but I probably won't be here next year.
Right. You got to. He's got to go. And here's the thing, right? The IHRA doesn't exist anymore, really, for any intents and purposes. The NHRA is circling the toilet. I mean, rapidly. So it's just really a matter of time. Dallas just has to keep doing his thing and just bide his time, and his day is going to come. It's going to get dropped right on his lap.
Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. But I mean, I tell you what, and we've never really discussed any of this, and maybe this is what I should talk about, some of this stuff on the AHRA History Channel or whatever. From October to March, I call just about every track on the planet, right? You know how many times you got to start hearing no, or you're a douchebag, or you're a loser, to where you start thinking you're a fucking loser. Am I doing the right thing? You know what I mean? And that's That's what I can only carry so much of that before it's like, okay, I can't do this anymore. You're right, Jason.
What's that?
He says that if I wasn't doing this, it'd just be a memory. That's right. And you know how many times I've thought about throwing in the towel? God damn. I've thought about a lot, to be honest with you. But it just gets, it's tough. It's tough. When you're creating something from nothing that's a national thing, if I was just to open up a little shop here in Murfreesboro, I could freaking clean house, right? But trying to do something nationally, and then you got all the other national entities coming after you, that it's hard, man. It's really, really hard.
So you guys want to support AHRE merch? You can get all this neat stuff. You get like these things and posters, and
Yeah,
they'll send you that plaque on the wall.
yeah. I'll send you the. That's a stock. That's an AHRA stock up there.
Yeah. So we have some used appliances at the house he's looking to get rid of. He'll send you that stuff too. AHRA Food, just put the link there. AHREonline.com.
Yeah. Before I get mad again.
Jason Fitch, Dallas sounds like cold call sales. You really got to believe in the product, but you have a good product, and you do.
I do. It's just hard. And I'm not a salesman. I never have been. I've never claimed to even be. I'm a sailor. I'm good at drinking beer, working while hungover, leaving my family on the pier. What other good things do I get? What from being a sailor? Oh, I have a work ethic that like would crush most people.
That's the truth. That's why we get along, because we have about the same work ethic.
It's just like get it done.
If I'm awake, I'm working. Yeah.
My mean girl side got exposed. Yeah, I guess so.
What was that now?
My mean girl side got exposed.
Man, it's Tony. Favorite looking Mopar wheels? Rally, Steely's, road wheels, or police wheels? Depends on the car.
John Wilburn says, if enough people join tonight, that I'll add a motorized Pinewood Derby class. I don't even have to be motorized.
That actually wouldn't be a bad idea.
Motorized Pinewood Derby class?
Yeah, make a just a thing to bring out.
I'll tell you what I do have that I thought was kind of interesting. There's a guy, Dennis Hayes, sent me a drag racing game that he made, like a board game. Oh my! When COVID happened, everybody was locked down and stuck at home, right? My kids wanted to play this and I had like this trophy from 1987. We would just pass between the two kids, whoever won, right? And that game is so much fun. I thought about like just doing that in the off season.
Mr. Wilson, $5. Dallas, don't listen to the haters. Embrace the good people. Why do you think I'm a loyal viewer of you guys? I don't think that, honestly, I don't really think that was a hater question. I think that was just, he was busting my balls, because he
came on there later and said, hey, I wasn't really trying to piss you off.
Yeah, he wasn't being a hater. It's guy talk, and that's what guys do. We poke fun at each other. So yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, well, so Roy Ferntop is interested in my drag racing game. I think it's a board game, but I was thinking about doing it during the off season. We could actually just have a drag race during the off season in this board game. But it's actually kind of cool. Dennis Hayes made it. I didn't have anything to do with it. If anything, I'll just church the thing up a bit. But it's cool. Yeah. Auto 1303 says, Dallas, send them out for a relative bearing grease and tell them not to return until they find it. And that's a Navy thing. You probably don't know what relative bearing grease is, do you?
I have no idea.
Okay. And it's not even really a thing. So in the Navy, you give bearings for something based on bearing that's relative to you.
Okay.
So you have to have a relation. So it's 0, 1, 0. So it'd be 10 degrees off of your way you're facing.
Okay.
Right? That's relative bearing. So
okay.
But because it's called relative bearing, people always assume it like
the bearings, right?
So we used to send the brand new guys out, go find me some relative bearing grease. We need it right now. Or go down to engineering, find me a bucket of steam, right? And then come back with like a bucket, and you'd put like a whole bunch of stuff in there. And you make them carry this 50-pound bucket all day, and you send them from one shop to the next, to the next, to the next. But
Or 50 yards of flight line.
The flight lines one. I was a sonar tech, so we used to send them out to catch the air slugs. So that's another one. Cool.
Zero says he's going to be a grandpa. Congratulations, brother, man.
Oh, Wayne, I don't do my cold beers here at Tony's shop. I got to drive 30 miles home.
I have one beer every like 2 years, whether I need it or not.
You should have hung out at the Slanted Gnats and had a beer. I even got some for the occasion, some dark beer.
I don't consume any mind or nothing. I don't consume anything if I'm anywhere near cars or car people or car things or anything mechanical.
Oh man. Well, when we did the Slanted Gnats the night before, there was already like 4 or 5 guys on the property the night before, right?
Right.
And there was some of them brought drinks from their area of the United States. So you had like guys from Pennsylvania. There's one guy from North Dakota. But we're all out there sharing beers, and it was pretty cool. We were just kicking back, relaxing, watching it rain, thinking that this thing ain't gonna happen.
Zero, you're gonna love being a grandfather, man. It's awesome. I honestly didn't think I was gonna like. I'm like, you know what I mean? Okay, yeah, big deal. I did the
parent thing.
The parent thing, right? Yeah. No, you're absolutely gonna love the grandparent thing. It's awesome. I can't get enough of it.
Is it better?
Oh, there's no comparison. There's no comparison. When you're young, okay, and you got your kids, it's like everything is a struggle. You're always like behind the 8 ball. It's like, it just diapers, formula, this doctor visit, that thing to the school, blah, blah, blah. And you're struggling to make a name for you
right
in the world. So it's constant stress. But when you're older, you've already established that. Like, I'm established. I'm done. I'm coasting now to the finish line. So it's like, so I don't have those stresses. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I can enjoy having the kids.
Dallas, have you tried the track in Denton, Texas? Is that US 30? Or was that right? Highway 30? Something like that. I think I have. I'll look real quick. Sorry.
John Wilburn says, I'm not a parent, but being a grandfather would be a blast. It's just I'm always I go over the top with the kids, like, it's like I'm always busting their chops and stuff. And Kathy was like, why do you do that to them? I said, because I want them to remember me as like when they're old, right? When they're my age, I want them to describe me as, he was an asshole, but he was a lot of fun to be around.
I had a grandfather like that. North Star Dragway. North Star Dragway. Yeah, look at my call rejection log. They actually take my call. They just like want to tell you how much of a freaking asshole you are or whatever most of the time. If I was really interested in looking for something like that, I'd be calling you. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, fair enough.
Inspector Business. Who is the best pinup girl from the muscle car era? Nikki Phillips. There could only be one. Nikki Phillips.
Wow, Jungle Pam's up there.
I mean, Jungle Pam.
Her shots at the track were just epic. And that wasn't really muscle car pinup girl, but like
Jungle Pam was a spectacular thing in her day, right? And I remember, like she was local,
right.
But Nikki Phillips was just perfection. Like there's just perfection.
Or Linda Vaughn?
Not nearly. Linda Vaughn was an 8 compared to Nikki Phillips 10.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm gonna have to go look up. I'm gonna look up Nikki Phillips right now.
Nikki Phillips was the tall one.
From the Hearst Girls?
Yeah.
Do you know if it's K's or a C?
Nikki, I think it is.
Herstet, Nikki Phillips. She's got a Facebook page.
Does she?
Yeah.
Oh, she's got to be 75 now.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, damn, what did I just do here? Yep, she's got a Facebook page. That's her there.
Yeah, but you have to see the full body shot of her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Colby Newman. Hey, kind of new to your channel and was wondering interesting about the reman lifter issue. How do you know you're getting quality new lifters?
Ooh, you don't.
You don't. And people were like, oh, well, you don't return lifters for a core. How could they be remanufactured? No, what you don't understand is that all of these records, every junkyard, and since the beginning of time, have been selling engines to core. They sell the cores to rebuilders, and the rebuilders break these things down. And they have, if you go to an engine, engine remanufacturer, they'll have 55-gallon drums filled with lifters. And so they have the small block Chevy lifters, have small block more, and it's all. So yeah, there's no shortage. You don't have to return them as a core. There's millions and millions of used lifters sitting in engine rebuilding places. The big factories. You don't have to return them for a core.
Man, I'm just wondering where have they all went? I'm actually starting to think that this is a technique for controlling the market.
It's looking to me more and more like this is being deliberate,
right?
Because it's everything across the board all at once.
This lifter thing can linger for years. Oh yeah, Mr. Will, no doubt about that. Imagine 20 years from now, somebody finds a set of these freaking lifters sitting on a shelf somewhere, drops them in there, whatever, and then wrecks a motor that you can't replace anything in anymore.
Dakota's talking about even if they were used, if they were refaced, why would that hurt them? Well, it depends on who's doing the refacing. And what machining process. So in other words, like if you don't have the proper crown on a lifter, you don't get the spin. So even at that, how much heat does the thing absorb if you don't have somebody who's competent, a good machinist doing this? And then of course they're replacing the guts inside of them, so they're only using the lifter body. They're resurfacing it, but there's no saying that the guts they're putting inside of these things are of the correct
tolerance,
and that's what it looks
or
like.
The same guts,
right? We'll have the right expansion rate. You know what I'm saying? So, when you talk about something like a lifter, the clearances are so tight for the thing to be accurate, and like I said, all the expansion rates have to be exactly right, or you get what we've been having for the last couple of years. And like I said, it's not just me; it's an epidemic. There are countless YouTube people have been sending me links to YouTube videos, all of these different channels building engines, and they're all having exactly the same problems.
Mopar Man 1978 says, "Wouldn't you have to get adjustable push rods if you recondition lifters? They're taking material off the lifters." Yes, they're taking material off, but you're not talking like most lifters normally have like 30 to 60,000 preload.
You're wrong. You're wrong. Because on the Mopar lifters that I have been getting through, one of the big manufacturers.
What am I wrong about? Like they're not resurfacing the lifter?
They're resurfacing them, but they're resurfacing them so much that the push rod doesn't fit right anymore.
Okay, so and that's what we're running into is, okay, normally a lifter has 30 to 60,000 preload, somewhere around there. Okay, so you technically have 30 to 60,000 to play with when you resurface that lifter. That you could pretty much, well, you're actually looking at about 30,000 you can play with, right? But as Tony was saying, it's getting to the point now where they've cut them down so much that you got nothing left.
I got to answer this. Doug Narden is saying 0. In my experience, redheads are trouble. Fun, but trouble. Okay, let me tell you something, all right? My granddaughter, Allison, she's 2.5, okay? Redhead, okay? And she's even got the red eyelids and, eyelashes and everything. Redhead, okay? She's only 2. And she's already, she knows how to play everybody around her. I've never seen anything like it. My other Caitlin, she's 6, okay, and she's brown hair, brown eyes, right? She's typical, average looking. She's very sweet, very demure, and right. But Allison, the redhead, 2 years old, she already knows how to play everybody around her. It's the most amazing thing. It is something I can't put my finger on it, but yeah, she's already the quintessential redhead at 2 years old.
My daughter is like that, and she's not even a redhead. Well, she has red highlights, I guess you would say.
Oh, okay. Run, Monique's. Okay, I didn't see your answer, my friend. I don't know if you saw my Roadrunner brake play. I didn't see it. I had trouble keeping the drums properly adjusted, so it was converted to consistently stop straight. Okay, I understand that. Tires are the limiting factor more than brakes. Okay. But it takes more pedal effort to get the thing to stop with the discs than it did with those drums. Mr. Will, Dallas. Thank you, Mr. Will. Should I be worried about the lifter issue if I get a cam and lifter set from TA Performance?
Mr. Will, to be honest about that, I've been kind of wondering that myself because I don't know how the lifters are. See, I'll tell you guys how I did my thing. I haven't been buying a cam lifters from TA Performance. I was getting cam shafts from Crowder for a little while. Now the Crowder deal that I had through them is kind of defunct. But when I started rebuilding engines in my garage, I bought a bulk lifter set, and I thought it was the dumbest thing I was ever going to do. Right? There was a guy selling a HT 969 lifters, which is what you use in a Buick and an Oldsmobile, on eBay, enough for like, what did I tell you, 8 or 12 engines, something like that. It was in a bulk set. It was 128 lifters. So I think that's 8. And it was $500, and I thought, oh my God, I'm never going to use those. But I got 7 or 8 engines in the garage ready to go. So they'll all need lifters. So that's, I started looking at the price comparison. It's like, wow, that's a lot cheaper. Well, then this weird lifter thing came out, and I kind of just got lucky with it. And I had so many of them that now I'm like the only guy that my junk is not failing.
Thank you, Jay Mankey. There's talking about redheads. Mopar Man 1978. I also noticed that redheads have attitude issues and older ones. I know this isn't cars, okay? I know this isn't cars, but this is like something that's really in my world right now. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is, okay? Everybody reacts to them differently, right? Because she's the cutest thing that ever lived. I mean, it's ridiculous, okay? So people react to redheads differently, and she is used to everybody giving her that extra bit of attention. And then she's only 2, okay, but she's already on that. She knows, you know what I mean? She makes a certain look on her face, and she'll get whatever she wants. She gets a little certain look on her face. She gets the compliments. She gets the, oh, how cute, how adorable, and people want to touch her head and stuff like that. And it's like, and that's what it is. From the very earliest age, they get special treatment, and it forms their you know what I mean. And I try not to give her special treatment, like, you know what I mean. I'm like, I try to be like, firm with her, or, stern, right? No, but that doesn't work. I can't do it. I just can't do it.
It's because you're pop. You're a pushover.
She's got me wrapped around her finger. It's ridiculous.
So Mopar Den says, Dallas, I just heard the Plattkill, New York drag strip proposal in Ulster County alongside the New York Thruway won a key court decision for approval.
Oh, nice.
That's the Modena drag strip that we were wearing the shirts that day. And I'm already locked in on that one. Not that locked in, hey, they're a guaranteed AHRA deal, but I've been following them now for a while, and I did see that they want to keep a piece of their court decision. And but they still have a long ways to go. But I'm all over it. And as soon as they get the trigger, the ability to pull the trigger, I'm in there.
It's just where Tony hates cars that handle and stop well. No, I just don't put any value in handling and stopping. You know what I mean? And in my experience, anything you do to make a car handle and stop takes away from its ability to accelerate. So therefore, I have no interest in things that handle or stop.
The Kickendale says, Danny Boyd, the missus is a redhead and a Navy CB.
Oh, Jesus.
It's a terrifying combination. I can only imagine. That was my dad. My dad was a redhead Navy CB. Well, when he had hair. But he was a redhead Navy CB from like the 70s, early 70s.
Bobby Cathy, what is the trick from keeping oil leaking past the spark plug tubes and fouling the plugs on a 426 Hemi? You're talking about when you take the plugs out, because they make these aluminum cups that you can insert into the head I think I've got a set of them here someplace. Um, they make a set of aluminum cups that you plug into the head, and then the spark plug tube goes in that. And the purpose for that is so that when you take the spark plug out and the tube is pulled out, the oil that's in the head doesn't gravitate down into the cylinder. I think that's what you're talking about.
Well, so Kenny.
Oh, shit, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. He was asking Kenny something.
Kenny Woodard.
Okay, he was saying road lifters are pretty good for a street car with a big cam and automatic trans if you could deal with the noise. I'm kind of wondering if road lifters is even still around. Do you know if they're still around? If they are, I mean, it might be. They're manufacturing their own lifters, so I'm assuming it'd be kind of neat to be beat down their door right now. If I was roads lifters, I'd be freaking popping them out left and right without the bigger oil holes.
Joe K, the Miata, handle and stop. But do you notice that I never, ever, ever, ever once talked about the car's acceleration capabilities?
But you also never, ever, ever bought a single part for handling or stopping on the car, except for just basic OEM replacement stuff.
But the idea is that I wanted a car that's what it did. Handle.
It did everything like the Miata normally did, except for have the flat torque curve of the slant six, right?
But you see, here's the way I am with this. Okay, let's just say I had brought that car to the Slanted Nationals. Okay, and you put it on the starting line, and said, Tony, go make a run with the car. I would say no. I don't want to know what the number is.
Oh, right.
Because if I know what the number is, then I'll start to fixate on that.
Well,
it's just like my street cars. You'll never see me take one of my street cars to a drag strip. Because if I take the street car to the drag strip and I put a number on the board, then I will become fixated on that number.
And it's got to be faster.
And I always have to make it faster. And now it's no longer the street car that I need to go to Publix and get chicken for fucking dinner. You know what I mean? And I need to get to the shop, right? And sit in traffic. Well, then the car doesn't become that anymore. Now the car becomes a number. And once you assign the number to the car, you always have to make it go faster. So that's why you'll never see me take one of my street cars that I drive, like let's say my Charger or the 73 Roadrunner or any. You will never see me take any of those to a track or assign a number because it's a street car. And to me, a street car doesn't ever go down a drag strip. Drag cars go down a drag strip.
Huh. I think I've already contacted North Star Dragway. I'm pretty sure I have, but I'd have to actually look at home.
Fubar just put the link to our merch, our T-shirts, and I don't think we're going to do hats anymore, but we're definitely doing T-shirts.
You're done with the hats?
Yeah, because we can't make them in-house.
You can't get them.
We're only doing merch that we can actually make in-house, and right now we can only make the shirts.
So here's the funniest story I ever heard. Well, like the I guess the funniest breakdown.
Okay.
So at the beginning of the season, I always buy my merchandise, and it was kind of hard to get stuff, right? And I'm like, well, I'm not waiting around for that crap. I'll just order what I can and then get some later. So middle of the season, I start running low on stuff because I didn't buy a full supply of everything, right? So I go back in there to buy some more shirts and stuff, and the guy says, "Oh man, well normally we have 50 shirt colors. 48 of them are out. Which color red would you like?" Right?
Oh no shit.
And I'm like, "Oh man, red." Okay, so then I bought the red shirts, and I came up with a plan for red because that's what people don't understand about doing this, the AHRA thing. I don't just put the race together and handle the payout stuff, and I do everything. There isn't a single thing that I don't do, right? So if I want to come up with a shirt, I got to come up with a shirt idea. I got to come up with a logo to put on the shirt. I got to come up with the shirt color. I got to come, and here's the funniest thing. Drag racers are fickle, okay? If you didn't know that. Black shirt, it's hot in the sun. White shirt, I get it greasy walking by my car. Gray shirt, I don't like the color, right? You can't please everyone. And unfortunately, you get stuck in this position where you just got to buy something in bulk for everyone so that you can at least save enough money to make some money on the things. I mean,
yeah. Well, we just figured black. It's simple.
I know. I did, that was my first ones my first ones were white. And everyone bitched like,
white shirts look like hell after just
1
I mean,
year.
we do a channel for gearheads. We do a channel for people who like to go out and work on their car, their truck, their trailer, their tractor, their whatever it happens to be, their locomotive. We do a channel for people who are like gearheads.
Right.
So we're just assuming that anybody who's going to buy our merch is going to be working in this shit because that's what gearheads do.
I never even thought of it that way. I just figured I was going to make the characteristic white T-shirt that they used to sell in the '60s for the AHRA, and I was like, oh,
Well,
this will be it.
But that's
Well,
because they didn't have colored shirts in the
right,
60s.
right. Well, I didn't think nothing of it, and then everybody's like, oh, dude, do you have a different color? I mean, all I do is walk by my car, and the sucker's cleaned with dirt and grease. Okay.
Yeah, in the '60s, colored T-shirts didn't come around until the '70s.
Huh.
Well, who sell a shirt that is pre-stained,
like tie-dye. You just want training fluid on the arm or something, right? Or I was thinking we could get a shirt like this beautiful color of the microphone.
There was when I had the coffee house, I had this one guy who came in one day, right?
Mike Smith, I've already talked to them.
I had this one guy that came in one day. He didn't know me, didn't know I was a gearhead or anything. You know, I was a mechanic or did any of that stuff. And he was wearing like a mechanic uniform, okay? But it was like clean, perfect. And it said clutch on the thing over here, right? So evidently, and I think it had stains on it too. But evidently, for a while there, they were selling these like this was a thing for guys, okay? You know, guys who don't work on cars.
To have a shirt that looked like it was a stained mechanic shirt.
Right, exactly.
That's like
it was a fashion statement.
So the shirt that I came up with while I was driving, because that's when I do most of this stuff is when I'm driving, because it's like 4, 5, 6, 7, 14 hours in between from point A to point B, right?
Imports still suck. Clutches have been, yeah, I know that, but it was like a name tag, you know, where the guy's name is Clutch.
Roy Ferntop says we need an STP sticker on our mic. I might put an AHRA sticker on there.
You should.
Something.
You got to put something
so,
on there.
You know the picture up here? I don't know if you can even quite see. You can't even see it on our camera today. But what we call the I want you guy, which is the dude pointing at you like, I want you for the AHRA. I was actually going to take that dude's face and put it on a black shirt, right? And then make it look like kind of like the emblem from Motorhead, and then it was going to say Motorhead above it.
Okay.
And I thought that was kind of cool because nobody has a shirt like that. I made this shirt, right? Like I had this one made.
Mr. Will told me I ordered a hat and another T-shirt last week and received the email saying my order was complete. So I guess my getting the listeners. Yeah, Uncle Crystal's been on it hard. She was here the last couple of days getting orders together and getting the stuff out. So you should have it really soon.
I've already called Mike in. I've already called all those tracks twice or maybe 3 times now. They just the no problem was just getting ready to reopen, but they already got to deal with IHRA.
Danny Boyd, I don't own any white clothing.
I don't blame you. After having white, it was like, oh, dude, I can see why this gets ruined so easy. Wayne Walleye says my T-shirt has a built-in beer belly.
John Wilburn, I just ordered 2 UTGs. You're probably not going to get them, bro. We had a run on them. I don't think there's any left. I grabbed a few of them off the out of the box, just threw them on the side so I'd have them, but which keeps me from ever having a groom. So I don't think there's any left.
My kid says who keeps showing up with his red AHRA T-shirt. That's the one I made this year. Was a red one. I had the gray ones that like you got last year. That was the ones I had last year.
Well, the red is good because let's just say, for example, you get shot.
Where are you shot at?
Right. You know what I mean?
You're still looking good,
right? It's a small caliber. You know, let's say you get shot with a 22.
Like, oh,
you won't even notice the hole. Right. There won't be any stains or anything like that. So I mean, perfect. So yeah, there's a good reason to have a red shirt.
Or if you're like me and you are like say pigmentation challenged, you get sunburnt. It just looks like your chest, or like you look bare chested.
You look at the Blue Man Group, except you're all red.
And it has just a giant AHRA logo.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that. Um,
Brad Yelich says Lemmy
Let me went to the doctor and asked for blood transfusion. Doc told him clean blood would kill him. I believe that. Oh, okay. Uncle Kathy just jumped in and she says there are hats left. Okay, so we still have some hats left.
But you guys are getting rid of the hats?
Yeah,
though?
no more hats.
Oh man, that sucks.
We're only doing merch that we can make in-house. If we get to the point
Well,
where we
and that
can
makes
embroider
sense.
hats, then we'll do that.
That makes sense. That's in reality, that's the only way you can make money on shirts and hats and stuff like that. I mean, all this stuff, I got to go out and buy it, and then I got to try to sell it to you guys at a better price, right? And it's something that you would, I can't just break even on the suckers, or it's just called, it's not called a business at that point. It's called a break even, right? But in the sad part is, most everybody has such markup on all this stuff, it makes it almost impossible to make something new.
Hey guys, can you guys make a video on how racing sanctioning bodies work? I really don't know. I just know they make rules. I'm sure people would like to know more. May bring members. Oh, Dallas uses the Ouija board for most decisions. So, and I'm pretty sure. I know the NHR has been summoning the forces of darkness for generations now. So they're obviously demonically controlled, and that's where the all of their basic rules and policies come from. Dallas goes for the more neutral spirits that can be achieved, contacted through the Ouija board.
Yeah, really ones you don't have to put effort into.
Right. No demonic.
Right.
No demonic forces, unlike the other sanctioning bodies.
So Kenny Whitten, No Problem Raceway is having I might have misspoken. I might have said IHRA. That I did talk to him on the phone just recently, and he was saying he already had a sanctioning body already lined up. So that maybe that was NHRA.
Billy Bob Holcomb says AHRA merch is fantastic for Christmas gifts.
It is. It's
everybody wants an AHRA Christmas.
What I found is, AHRA shirts, hats, and decals are fantastic gifts for September the 16th, right, which is tomorrow, or also Halloween.
Well, now, have you thought about an AHRA Christmas theme?
I haven't. I thought about. I think I told you I wanted to have an off-season race.
I think you need to come up with an AHRA Christmas carol.
AHRA Christmas carol?
Yeah. Start a whole thing.
I always thought AHRA was kind of cool. I could work with a microbrew, right?
Okay.
And come up with AHRA beer, because then we could have dry hop beer, right? I don't know if you've ever made beer where you put dry hops. Okay.
Yeah.
And you dry hop
the beer.
I
went through a phase there where we were making our own beer.
Yeah, and then you dry hop the beer. You add dried up hops in the beer. But I thought, man, that's a really cool name. And then you get you could do ones like called the Slingshot, and it was kind of endless. But
Billy Bob Holcomb says the shirts also make great bibs for Thanksgiving. That is no lie.
Well, what I need to probably do is start thinking outside the box and start thinking about the mechanics / gearhead, right? And then make you remember the old mechanics in your town used to have the bib that they would wear,
right.
Like an apron.
So Olive's they're already on it. Olive is like, starting tree. That's good. And then you got Doug Norton, deck the halls with Thumpy, big box. That's perfect.
Fa la 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 la. Oh wow! How ironic is this? Andrew Watson says he just bought an 85 442, which we were just talking about. One of the other members just got a daily
with 12,000 miles original.
Yeah, but this guy's Andrews has a 455 in it. What's the most common problem? In that car, I don't know what training's in. If it's still got a 204R, it's probably going to puke with that 455 in front of it. But if not, if it's got like a turbo 400 or turbo 350, I would say the next most common problem is Oldsmobiles had issues with oil drain back, right? They used to oil the top in and it gets stuck up at the top.
Well, Oldsmobiles used to what's the word I'm looking for? Where the oil congeals inside the engine.
Like coagulation?
Yeah. Oldsmobiles always. that was going back to like to the 70s, the 80s, when we were working on a lot of Oldsmobile motors. Whenever you pop the valve covers off from one of those things, it was a disaster.
Oh, it looked like the gravy boat from Thanksgiving.
Right? Yeah.
But the Oldsmobile also was the one that's like, to me. All right, so my dad got an Oldsmobile right before he died, like maybe 2 years before he died, 3 years, something like that, maybe 5. But either way, he had an Oldsmobile. That's the first time I'd ever like really taken one apart. Most of the time, I just had them as drivers. But he kept having problems with it leaking water in the oil, right? And that's because somebody had decked the block and all kinds of stuff, and he didn't know what he was messing with, like what had already been machined. And anyway, he kept tearing the top end of this car apart or this motor apart. And he must have had like 10 sets of intake manifold gaskets he hung up that he was going to try to reuse at one point. Right. And I saw those up there and I'm like, God, man, why has my dad got so many sets of Cleveland intake manifold gaskets? It made no sense. And then I realized it was Oldsmobile. And Oldsmobile has those big gargantuan ports like a Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the Clevelands never ran that great on the street when they were new, without somebody really going through them, right, and tuning them up, because the port velocity was so slow through those 4V heads. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of wondering if the Oldsmobile was under the same problem.
Oldsmobiles used such conservative cam timing on those things. They were all like 114. They were all like 114s. They were all like 380 lift, and
they got gargantuan ports and valve sizes, and the bores were really big on them. I just don't know why they just didn't seem to run all that great. But here's what the weird part was: the intake manifold, like the carburetor, sat lower than the ports on the head, and it's like, whoa, you want to talk about murdering airflow? Yeah. It's got to go up against fight gravity. Suspended molecules of fuel fighting gravity.
Mr. Will says, Tony, I respect that you don't drink. Nothing beats a couple of cold ones with your friends after working on the hot road all day and looking for the fruits of your labor. I am not a social drinker. There's just when I'm amongst people and I'm conversing and stuff, the last thing I want is a buzz of any sort. Because I want to be aware. I want to. You know what I mean? It's like, when I do drink is when I've got nothing going on. Right? I don't have a place to be tomorrow or the next day, and at that point. If I pick up one, I just bam, I go for the kill. I get to drink for the kill. And I'm not an alcoholic at all. I don't have alcoholic tendencies. But if I'm going to pick up one, it's to do a job and it's to get wasted. And to me, just social drinking is just not. It's not a thing. I don't enjoy it, and I especially don't believe that alcohol should be anywhere near any sort of machinery.
On the first day of Christmas, my true love said to me, "It's cold out here, and the trek is closed until April." It doesn't have a good ring, John. You got to keep practicing.
Danny Boy says nothing beats a cold one first thing in the morning. You're an alcoholic, man. Don't drink a cold one first thing in the morning.
My favorite, if you're going to drink like at weird times, my favorite one was always the shower beer, the cold shower beer, right? Like after you've already worked outside all day and you're super hot and sweaty and stinky, you go inside and you take a lukewarm shower and a cold shower beer. Man. So imports still suck, says Oldsmobile heads have a 6-degree valve angle and a relatively tall deck. So to make it all fit,
they smash the intake down.
An Edelbrock Victor
that makes sense.
Wonders. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I'd never really messed with them Oldsmobiles, and man, the heads look like they would flow some stupid numbers. UTG Dallas, which muscle cars came with the his/her shifters? Oldsmobiles.
They were the
Herstolds had them.
Yeah, but so did the Pontiac GTO.
Did they have the lightning rod?
No, the GTO had the dual gate shifter.
Oh,
his and hers.
You're right.
What else had a dual gate shifter? The AMCs.
AMX.
I don't know if I think it was previous to that. I think the middle 60s, like
like the machine,
like a Marlin. No, they had the twin stick thing.
Man, if that Marlin would have been 2 feet shorter, or I don't know, there's something about it that makes it look proportionally incorrect. right? The Marlin. It's got that big fastback window,
Too
but
big. It's too much of a curve to the
is that what it
back.
is?
I think so.
I mean, because I think the most
I mean,
most
they're good-looking
exaggerated you
cars.
could get away with was like the 66 Charger. Is that right? 66?
66, 67.
That was probably the most you could get away with because that was you either love them or you hate them.
Right.
Right.
I love them. I got one. I have one.
Well, the very first car I ever looked at was one of those. Mitten Made Muscle says here in Michigan, we've come across a lot of old 70s and 80s boats with old 455s in them. And I don't know why that seemed to be the go-to motor. Even I don't know if GM just threw them in stuff that was obscure. I have no idea. They had the RVs with the Oldsmobiles in them. You think that was because of the torque?
Probably. Or they just got a good deal.
Maybe. I don't know. Those were GMC motorhomes, though. But it just seems like that's the thing. That makes
we're
sense.
2 hours and 15 minutes. Let's go a little bit longer.
Jason Fitch says Dallas, the Marlin was designed for a 6-foot man to sit in the back. That makes sense if you knew.
Yeah, but Olive was just saying they have huge tail overhang. Those Marlins. There's a real nice one, right? I mean, they're just oddly proportioned.
Just something looks off about them. When you look at them from the side, you're like, something's off. You know what I mean?
Right. But yeah, it's the same thing with the Chargers, with the 66, 67 Chargers.
You look at them
from
side?
some angles, they're gorgeous. Like the rear 3/4 angle.
Oh, I like the front end.
It's beautiful.
The front
from
gorgeous.
the front end is okay, but from certain angles, they look a little weird. They're just not.
I think that's the Chrysler equivalent to the Riviera, where they had that badass looking front end on them. They just look good. There's some cars that they got right that were just so right you can't change one thing on them. Then there's some of them that's so wrong you can change everything, right? Like
Cecil Gilbert. Anyone know if oven cleaner hurts bearings? If you leave it soak on there long enough, it will. It'll soften the bearing. But if it's just a quick, you know what I mean, you let it sit for 5 minutes and hose it off, nah, you'll be all right.
The 70 Satellite is perfect. I don't know what a 70 looks like.
The Satellite Roadrunner GTX. Yeah, they're Purple Ninja. I'll go with that.
70 Roadrunner is the same body?
Yeah.
So that's a square one, the B body, like the Coke bottle.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what the Satellite looks like. I'd have to look at one, but I'm
it
sure
looks just
if
like
it's
a
all the
68,
same.
69, but they cleaned it up.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I know a 70 Charger. Is it like that?
It's
because I've never seen a 70 Satellite. Well, and if I have, I just
if you've seen one, you've seen a zillion of them. It's just not registering in your head right now.
Yeah, the one I always like, my old man got it right. He's got a 70 Buick GS Stage 1, and it's just like you can't change one dang thing on the car, and it's just right, just like the 69 Camaro. They got it right.
69 Chevelle is perfect. Eugene, the rear quarter window, man. The rear quarter window, it just doesn't fit the car. The 70, perfect.
I thought the 72 with the single headlights. I was like,
yeah, that too. Yeah, the 72s. 67 Buick Wildcats. Oh, they are gorgeous.
Any of those GM full-size cars from like 65 to 67, the Bonneville looks good. I mean, they all look good. And the ones that really got me was like Grand Prix. Grand Prix of that era is like really good looking.
Doug Narden says the 57 DeSoto Adventure is perfect. I'm trying to picture it. Yeah, I'm trying to picture it.
I think
the DeSotos in those years were
those 3 years you had to really compete. I mean, look, General Motors, in my personal opinion, the Tri-5 Chevy is probably perfection. Right. But the 55 is the one. That's my opinion only. There's some guys like 57 only, but you had to compete against that. I don't know what the DeSoto looked like.
Well, the forward look, right, with the sweeping fins and all of that.
Is that like that 59 Chrysler from Christine?
58. That was a Plymouth Fury.
Okay.
Yeah, and those are homely. The 58, the Plymouths are homely, but the DeSotos were gorgeous.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
The DeSotos were gorgeous.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we should probably just call it a night.
They had the coolest taillights on all of them. Oh, look, it's Nikki Phillips.
Well, that's I told you I looked her up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, 57 DeSoto. What?
Just look at 57 DeSoto. They're all the same body.
I wonder why the name DeSoto went away. Oh, dude, that does look pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a wide car like that Plymouth.
Mm-hmm. Well, that one's a custom, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know.
that
I just clicked
customized?
on one. Oh man, they do look good.
Yeah. Let's face it, Mark Gendron. Let's face it, they all look good compared to today's cars. Yeah, they
Yeah,
do.
yeah. Today's cars, they just have no. Aren't they like? I think it reflects society, right? Like they have no class. That's what society is today.
All right, guys. We're it's late. Well, it's not really late, but it's long.
55 Chieftain. What? GM all got it right around that time frame. 55, 57. They all look really good.
All right, guys. We're gonna pull a plug tomorrow night. I think we're gonna do another live with the Junkyard Jet guys. I think they're gonna pull the heads apart, and we'll take a look at that crankshaft. So we'll do another one of those lives that we did last Thursday with them. So it'll be about 7:00 or so, the usual time. And then next Sunday night, obviously, our usual Sunday night live show. And our mods, again, forever grateful to they just awesome people. Ari, John, Fubar, Zero, not necessarily in that particular order. Thank you so much. And the Kickendall, just because he is, right?
Yeah, he is.
Okay. Hey, everybody contributed to Super Chat. Thank you so much. It keeps the wheels turning. Thank you. And everybody contributed just with good conversation. You know, I think we got one of the best communities on all of YouTube. It ain't the biggest, but we're definitely one of the best.
Yeah.
And then there's Dallas, who, is a giant among, sanctioning body.
Yeah. I'm the littlest guy in the biggest pond.
All right. So that's it, guys. We're going to pull the plug. And anything you want to throw in there? AHR online, right?
Get yourself a membership or some merch.
Yeah. And the
AHR decals.
We got the AHRA Drag Racing History channel, which you just put an episode up the other day.
I did. Yeah. It was part 3. And there's already people screaming for part 4.
They want part 4. So we're going to do part 4, the funny car story. So you guys if you haven't seen that, check that out. Go over there, subscribe to his channel, like it, ring the bell, share it to your friends, get a tattoo on, okay. And that's it, right?
Yeah.
We're done?
Yeah. I appreciate you guys coming out and hanging out with us.
I can't talk anymore. I don't want to talk anymore. I'm done talking now. Okay.